It's two people. You can't put it's four faces.
You can put it on there like a Hydra on the road.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Kapow!
Yeah, you guys are strong on your acknowledgement games lately. Coming up with some new shit, man. And
it's your new catchphrase.
Yeah, kapow! I almost stole the one from Cars.
There was
Nice.
a literal graphic that showed up in front of his microphone when he said kapow.
I did. I put my arms up in a totally formal and accurate stance of whatever martial art uses kapow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm intimidated right now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had kapow chicken? George likes his chicken spicy. I have completely derailed this intro.
That's
I'm so
right.
sorry.
And for music video sins, Barrett Share.
Boom!
There you
go.
Weak.
A kapow and a boom.
Weak.
Just like that. We are fresh off of Wizard World in
Wizard
Nashville.
World.
Thanks for making me sick.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
Bunch of dicks coming out in public.
Apparently we haven't done enough cons because I guess that's normal. Like, because there's so many people in such tight quarters and they're so varied where they're from and all this other stuff that there's even like a name for it. Like they call it like con crud or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like all these people weren't surprised on Twitter when I was like, I got sick after that con. So.
I think it's because you exchanged cosplay outfits with Wonder Woman.
Well, and I exchanged saliva with Kato Caitlin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We weren't kissing. Never mind. That's only going to be worse.
You were yelling at each other.
You told Kato OJ did it, man. I think that Kato knows that, and he's probably been told that.
Well, again, that was mostly the wine speaking at that point. But thanks to Aaron Dicer for coming on and calling me out. I said I did it from afar. Apparently, I was only like 5 feet away.
You were like practically whispering it in his ear.
he literally like turned around.
I'm kind of a bastard. What can I say?
Whoa, Kato Kaelin was much more of a bastard.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, he was.
I mean, I don't know. I don't understand the appeal there.
Well,
I kept trying to figure it out. If you're Wizard World and you want to have somebody who's emceeing the event and everything, why that one? Like your age range may be wide and everything, but I still feel like it's people our age are really the only ones who really know.
I'm going to tell you what. Corey Feldman said no.
Yeah.
And that's how
Maybe
you end
so.
up. Now, I do not know how he got away with some of the shit he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to start like in a kind of internet war. You go be you, Kato. I doubt you even care. I'm water on a duck's back to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care. But he got away with a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Almost as though there were large chunks of time, maybe Friday when they opened to Sunday when they closed, where he was not being monitored by anybody. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because
Well,
there
yeah.
were at least a couple comments that I was like, someone's going to say something to him after this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I never understood the appeal there. Like I could understand if it was like 1998.
Yeah.
Like
He's doing a VH1 reality
few
show or
years
something.
after the trial
Yeah.
and everything, I could understand, but like not more than 20 fucking years away from that event.
I don't know. He's probably booming with all the OJ stuff that happened last year or the year before when there was that series and then a documentary series.
I watched the series though, and he wasn't a big part of it.
No, but he was a bigger part of the documentary series,
Yeah,
which I
that's
think got
true.
more acclaim.
That's true.
But anyway, yeah, Kato Kaelin was there, strangely enough.
Mhm.
But we also saw some people from Firefly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer Glau was there.
Mhm.
Jules State was there.
Yeah.
We saw Thomas Ian Nicholas
Nicholas.
Mhm.
from afar.
Yep.
We got to interview Jason Mewes and Brian O'Halloran.
That's
that was
right.
pretty awesome.
That was
Yeah.
fun.
Have them on the last episode of the SinCast.
Who just came out, O'Halloran did an interview saying that he's going to be a featured player in the Jay and Silent Bob reboot thing.
awesome.
That he's going to be playing, like, I think, like an amalgam either of all of his characters or each of his characters individually.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that could be fun.
Like Gil Hicks and Dante,
Yeah.
and the guy from Chasing Amy or whoever it was.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Kevin Smith has never cared about like breaking continuity or walls or what have you. And so
You're the bomb in Phantoms, Affleck.
I made the mistake. It wasn't a big mistake, but I made the mistake of like pretending that Jason Mewes and Brian O'Halloran even knew who I was.
Yes.
So like when it was time, it was time to go and everything. I went up to shake his hand, and Jason Mewes like kind of took a step back a little bit, and then finally he's like, "Well, I'm cornered." And I was like, "Hey, I'm Chris Atkinson." Blah blah blah, and then then he realized, oh yeah. So
but they were great.
No, they were awesome.
that was a really good interview. They were really funny and really informative too.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of fans come out
Yep.
and meet us, people that were just wanting to say hey, people that traveled from afar, people that came, a couple that said they only came once they found out we were going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Very flattering.
Yep.
To, three normal dudes like us. You guys keep that up.
We had a 9-year-old.
We had that 9-year-old was maybe one of my favorite things about the entire convention.
Highlight.
Because I started out like, I always cringe when I meet a fan that young, because I'm just like, the shit that comes out of my mouth in these videos. This kid has heard how many blowjob jokes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, but after a while, you get to a point where, first of all, his enthusiasm was so
oh my
through the
God,
roof.
contagious.
About life, not just about meeting us. That kid is just high on life. And I feel like I got a sense that he was maybe a little savvier than your average 9-year-old, at least in terms of like pop culture and entertainment stuff. But he kept coming back. Like every time he would think of something new to tell us, he would come back, and it was just it was an awesome.
He told us that Kong Skull Island was his favorite video.
You might have been told to say that, or
might have been.
But
no,
again,
that was off the cuff.
But
man.
again, see that just shows he's a little savvier than your average 9-year-old. That was awesome. We got to meet a bunch of Twitter friends that we've communicated with for years. Really, really had a good time.
Yeah, the dinner and the movie thing was a lot of fun too.
Well, what I remember of it. I even asked Barrett the next day. I didn't embarrass myself, did I? Because again, I had a little too much wine, and we all had microphones, and it gets to be a point where my filter starts to shrink. And
realize that even the Mystery Science Theater guys aren't doing that shit live.
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
yeah.
it all
it's all
scripted out. So we're like sitting there trying to come up with our best. And there were like times I was like, I really want to say something here, but the scene's already passed. Yeah.
By the time you formulate the thought in your head, it's moved on in the imagery.
Yeah, and that movie of Sleeping Beauty is like so short.
Yeah,
so
no kidding.
It's clocking. It's going through there, man. I think the interesting thing too about the booth that we had is a couple of times people would walk by and go, "Love your videos," and just keep walking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess you just don't want to meet us for some reason. Like it would ruin it.
Depending on when it would have been in my life. Now, I never went to a Comic-Con until I was, basically that was like 3 years ago. It was the first time I ever went. And when I was a teenager, they weren't even that big of a deal. I'm sure San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con were probably going on when I was a teenager, not too long after that. But I might have behaved like that if I walked past somebody that I really liked their work, whether it was an actress or what have you. I mean, 15-year-old me would have gone by Summer Glau without even looking her in the eye. I would have been too scared. Yeah, I just want to breathe the same air. Okay, I'm gone. So, I mean, some of it may be that. Some of it may be time. Some of it may be, I didn't know they were here. I'm aware of them, but I'm not a super fan. Love your videos.
And then you'd have the complete opposite where they didn't even hear of you before, and they come up to the table and they start looking at everything on there. Like those.
So, what's Cinemasins?
Yeah, what do you guys do?
Where do we start?
They want to have the convention experience, man. They want to go to every booth and learn everything.
I think a lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
I just all around, I thought it was a really great, fun experience.
Yes,
and that
it was.
convention center is sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sweet. Our thing was taking place over 3 floors, and I bet we only saw 10% of that building.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's just enormous. It takes up like 4 city blocks.
There were 2 other cons going on.
Yeah.
Conventions
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
We went into the wrong one. We went to like the Home and Garden one.
Yeah.
Showed up.
We had a booth at the Home and Garden.
Which is right over here. Kato was also doing that one.
Yeah.
Weirdly
That's
enough.
right. But yeah, all in all, great experience. Enjoyed it immensely. I've enjoyed going to cons every time we've done it. C2E2 was fun. Rhode Island one was fun.
There's such a great environment at those things, man. It's just such a warm, accepting, I'm weird, you're weird, we all like something weird, but we share the obsession with something. And that builds a sense of community that's really unique. I don't think I've felt that in a whole lot of different places.
Yeah. And it's weird seeing the cosplayers unite in weird ways. Like you'd see Jason Voorhees interacting with Green Arrow or something like that.
Yeah, my favorite was that Wolverine guy that posed with Wonder Woman. I'm like, wow, I'm crossing the streams there a little bit.
Well, and then
the
we
one
had,
that I thought was John Wick.
yeah, that's the one.
This is me not being able to come up with character names right off the bat, but the Will Smith Suicide Squad, Deadshot, the Deadshot guy, who every single Batman character that would go past him, he would surreptitiously point his gun at every one of them.
Every single one. That's like the first thing we saw walking in.
Yeah.
We were all giggling in line. Anyway.
Yeah, that was fun. We're going to do a new topic today.
So excited about this.
We've been talking about this for a while,
Yep.
actually, about doing a sort of a Mount Rushmore of our all-time best, whatever. We're going to do directors today.
The best, Jerry. The best.
I want to go to Mount Rushmore. Take me now!
Hail to the chief, he's the chief and he needs hailing. He is the chief, so everybody hail like crazy.
The best of the best of the best, sir. That's very funny to me.
Yeah.
We originally talked about like a Hall of Fame kind of thing, but that leaves it so open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the discussion will be better and the choices will be harder by limiting ourselves to 4 in any category of film. And we're going to do as many as we can squeeze out. Like, I think we should do actors and we should give actresses their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe even supporting players from over the years, composers, writers, maybe producers. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, and I think when you first hear about a topic like this, you're like, oh well, it'll be these 4, and there's it's not as easy as you think.
Well,
No.
it's that, and this is the SinCast Mount Rushmore.
Right.
True. This is not like Leonard Maltin's Mount Rushmore.
Right.
Like he's seen all like the new wave of French cinema and shit like that.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I'll be the first to admit that we're lacking on a lot of like the classic guys and everything. I am going to pitch a few of them though, because we are going to have to consider some of these people.
Oh yeah.
Because I tell you what, man, I'm going through some of these classic directors.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've heard of that movie, you've heard of that movie, you've heard of that movie, you've heard of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And, they stack up even if you haven't seen the movie.
You tell me if you think this is lame. I think it might be fun to do every week when we're doing this topic. The first thing we start out with is we all at the same time say the name of a director we're pretty sure is a shoo-in.
All right.
And whether that means after discussion or ultimate voting or what have you, we're all picking the one name we think is the shoo-iniest, and we say it all at the same time. I have a suspicion we're not all going to say the same name.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe on this one we would.
Maybe so, because I've got one that I think is
I think one
ironclad.
is Grand Slam. So you want to do this?
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay. I'm going to count down from 3.
Mhm.
3, 2, 1. Spielberg.
Hitchcock.
Ooh.
Who'd you say?
His Spielberg.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But
And you?
Hitchcock.
I said Hitchcock.
But
yeah.
Hitchcock was second. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like 2 spots might already be there.
Mhm.
And then the other 2, you got to start thinking about it a little bit. Now, I came up with a little bit of a criteria for this.
All right.
Not a big one. Obviously, they have to have a huge spectrum of work that has lots and lots of either critical hits or big blockbuster
Sorry,
hits.
Brett Ratner.
Right.
Yeah.
And he would have totally been in the running.
Or Ben Affleck, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I would actually. That's a good example. Or Brad Bird, somebody who's got a great percentage track record, but only has made 4 or 5 films.
Right. I also, even though awards don't really matter to me as far as like, oh, that movie won awards, blah, blah, blah. Awards, I mean, are fun. They're not an actual measure of quality or anything. But I do think it's somewhat important to think of how their peers looked at them.
Right.
And the cultural impact. How do those movies hold up today if they are old? A lot of those type of factors go in.
Yeah, and also
everything.
another one I thought of. I think 1% in every discussion should be devoted to like how Mount Rushmore worthy of a head do they have?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like Hitchcock has already, against all directors,
Perfect.
he has the perfect kind of
Yeah.
face for this sort of thing. I don't think it should be a very heavy weight. Like obviously it shouldn't be a tie-breaking kind of thing. But I think Spielberg's head would look pretty good up there. Right? If we put up somebody like Darren Aronofsky, right? It'd be like, oh, it's older Ryan Johnson.
You wouldn't know who that was.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
it's Moby.
yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're going to, So how are we going to do this? We're going to nominate.
I think we should
throw out
nominate and
some
discuss.
nominations. Yep.
And at any point along the way, if we reach any kind of consensus, we can lock somebody in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should start with Spielberg and Hitchcock.
Okay.
Spielberg has one of the best body of works of any director ever.
Yep.
And it's stretched a long period of time. Only in the last couple of his films have I been sort of like not excited or not interested. This Ready Player One looks pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
But, very few people are going to have the longevity of career to match up against, him. And then box office wise, awards wise, magic wise, like how many of our favorite movies growing up were his?
It also seems like, and this is a rarity, I think, in directors, like it seems like he's just super well respected with no baggage. It doesn't seem like people are calling him an asshole as soon as they're done working with him. He's worked with obviously millions of people.
Yeah, who hates that guy?
Yeah, I mean,
he's like Tom Hanks.
Exactly.
Nobody.
Yeah, I guess that's why they work together so much.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
Either that or they're just friends.
Mhm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And Hitchcock was the name I threw out as probably a shoe-in, just because again, great body of work, but he also has that rare run of 5 movies that are just A++, 10-star. Nobody thinks anything bad about them. He was super inventive. The only knock on him is that unlike Spielberg, there are a few people that were like, I hated working with that guy. He treated me like a jerk.
Yeah, but he was like the Miguel Cabrera of filmmakers.
Is that
like,
a baseball reference?
Yeah,
Okay.
they were. No, it's not Miguel Cabrera. Who's the one that's hitting all the home runs this year? Is it Cabrera?
Stanton.
Giancarlo Stanton. He's the Giancarlo Stanton of directors. He hits so many home runs. Obviously Spielberg has a ton too, but he's also got like a lot of singles and doubles too.
Yeah, Hitchcock never really did prestige pictures or anything.
Mhm.
Spielberg, it always felt like he was always looking for that sort of recognition from Hollywood. And if you can ever find that video of him when Jaws was nominated, he didn't get nominated for Jaws, but the picture did, and he was like so certain it was going to win and all that. Find that video, because he's like, it's like a party with him just like drinking and stuff, and he's like, Jaws is gonna win, we made the most money this year, blah 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 blah. Anyway,
was that Milos Forman that won that year for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Another point for Milos.
But Hitchcock wasn't really appreciated until I believe it was all these French New Wave directors who were coming out, like Godard and Truffaut and all that. These were the people who started saying that Hitchcock should be assessed better than he had been at that point, because I guess Hitchcock wasn't exactly looked upon as this great legendary director back in the 60s until these guys came along.
He still managed to work with some of the biggest names in Hollywood.
Well, yeah,
every time in and out.
I'm sure everybody realized these movies are good.
Yeah.
And so I looked at Hitchcock. He got nominated 5 times for Best Director, and that was for Rebecca, which is a really great movie, Lifeboat, which I've never seen, Spellbound is really good, Rear Window, which of course is one of our favorites, and Psycho. He did not get nominated for North by Northwest or Vertigo, and then he's got The Wrong Man, The Man Who Knew Too Much, To Catch a Thief, Dial In for Murder, Strangers on a Train, Rope, and Notorious, and Sabotage.
Damn.
All those movies are like considered his, and he was by far the most I wrote for any director. Like name pictures in the roster, and I skipped over a few that you could even include. So it felt like a slam dunk to me, even though the Academy never really recognized him. And but he was recognized later on. There's a lot of those type of directors. If you look at some of their body of work and how they're perceived today and everything, they weren't really Academy guys sometimes.
Right.
He's also a weird dude. Like he's the opposite of Spielberg, like mercurial, and like every shot that you see of him, like a photograph or something like that, like he's in a suit laying in the lake or something like that, and like he's just weird, which is great because it came across in his movies. I mean, who would think of how he shot The Birds or something like that, or obviously Psycho or North by Northwest? By the way, he's the only director, I think, in this discussion that has an actual shot of Mount Rushmore.
North by Northwest.
North by Northwest.
Yeah.
Well, whoever directed National Treasure 2.
Book of Secrets. And Team America, too, has a Mount Rushmore scene.
Looking at Spielberg, he's been nominated 7 times. He won twice.
That's it?
Yeah.
Color
Wow.
Purple.
He got nominated the first time, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, then Raiders, E.T., Color Purple. Schindler's List was his first win.
Oh.
Saving Private Ryan was his second win, which the movie didn't win. Munich.
Munich.
Yeah. And Munich is his last. Well, no, Lincoln. I guess Lincoln is also his last. So then after that, Jaws obviously should be on the list. Empire of the Sun, which is, I think that was that period of Spielberg trying to get that award, man.
Right.
He had Color Purple and Empire of the Sun come back to back. But then Jurassic Park and Minority Report and Catch Me If You Can, all those I included as far as like great movies.
Yeah.
I've skipped over a few that you could consider at least minor good movies or whatever.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, always. So
Warhorse.
yeah, Warhorse. See, Spielberg lately, that's the thing.
Yep.
Like, you start like piling some of his. If you started including some of the stuff he's done like in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing. I was thinking if I had one like golden coin and I could guarantee a director would be up there for sure, it would probably be Hitchcock. And the only reason is that Spielberg has more misses than Hitchcock does. And, it's only because Spielberg has worked longer and math exists and odds happen, because you just can't be. Even look at Pixar. Pixar had a run there where everybody was like, they're never going to make a movie that's not good. And then they did a few times.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think these two are both worthy. I would be willing to go ahead and put them right up there on that thing.
So then you start getting into some directors that, they're definitely legendary. Do they have what it takes to get up on Mount Rushmore? Martin Scorsese is another immediate one that comes to mind.
Sure. Scorsese.
Yeah, Scorsese.
I like to think of
He's
myself
like
as
the
the next
next-
Martin Scorsese. I was funny side story. I went for a walk with my wife this morning, and I was talking about this topic today, and I realized in the moment, I'm not sure I know who the actual 4 presidents are that are on Mount Rushmore. But I'm happy to say we figured it out by the time we got back to the house on our walk, and I was correct. So,
I'm sure. I bet you there's a significant portion of the population in America that does not know who the presidents are. Up there.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them could probably get 1 or 2 just because you heard so many names over the years. But, I got through Washington, Lincoln, and Roosevelt, and it took me a while to get Jefferson.
Those are the easiest ones. Those first 3 are the easiest ones, because after that, it's like, out of all the presidents, is who are we going to put up there?
Who's the Ringo of
Yes.
the?
Right.
Yes.
I just compared Thomas Jefferson to Ringo
You
Starr.
sure did. You sure did. But, he's dead. He's not offended.
Yeah.
I love that moment. By the way, talk about derailing on the Leonard Maltin schmoes thing. Where they offered multiple choice to the Beatles question. And she's like, we know all the 4 Beatles.
Yeah.
I was telling Chris that day, though, that question was kind of, not unfair at all, but it gave itself away because the movie they were asking about was a comedy, and no character would say their favorite Beatle was anyone but Ringo in a comedy, right? Because otherwise you're just stating an opinion most people have.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Scorsese, 8 nominations, 1 win.
Wow.
8? Wow.
And what did he win for?
He won for The Departed.
The Departed. I was
that's not
watching
even-
that last night, man.
It's great, but that's not even one I would give him an award
Well,
for.
and he's, here's the thing. He didn't get nominated for Taxi Driver, which is generally considered his best. His first nomination was for Raging Bull. And then he got nominated for Last Temptation of Christ, Goodfellas, Gangs of New York, The Aviator, then The Departed, Hugo, and The Wolf of Wall Street.
Man, that's a great track record.
Yeah, and then after that, you have movies like Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, and I put The King of Comedy in there. I think
I like that one.
I think a few people sort of neglect that movie, but it's actually really good. And I've skipped over a few of those Scorsese that, some people will be like, hey, Casino might deserve to be in there. And I like Casino. I just don't think I don't think it belongs in that discussion.
Where do you stand on The Aviator?
I'm not a fan of The Aviator.
Yeah, me neither. It was just going. It was
It's
punching above its weight, I think.
And there's Scorsese really trying to win the Oscar.
Yeah, he's doing like a Spielberg, basically.
Yeah.
Well, even Leo's really trying to win an Oscar.
Yeah. And these biopics, it's what it just comes down to. It looks just like every other biopic that's ever been made. It didn't feel like a Scorsese movie at all. So not a huge fan of The Aviator, but
Scorsese's got a great Mount Rushmore face, though. If
does.
you want to consider that, like he would be instantly recognizable.
I agree.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah.
What about your good pal Kubrick?
Okay, So Kubrick.
That's who I thought you were going to say when we all three said our names.
Well, I don't think he's a slam dunk. Personally, obviously, he's one of my favorite directors of all time.
Sure.
He doesn't have the breadth of these other ones, though, because he took so fucking long to make movies.
So he made, what, a total of how many?
Oh, probably 13?
It's
like
like 16, I think. But
Yeah.
but a lot of the movies he made, he used to work like crazy in the 50s and then the 60s. And then it was when he started when he did A Clockwork Orange, it started taking him more and more time between movies to do stuff.
Okay, so we're both right. He did 13 features, but he did 16 overall.
Oh,
He
16
did,
total
Look
things.
at that. Flexing the knowledge
We love
muscles.
us some Kubrick around here.
Kubrick got nominated 4 times in his career: Dr. Strangelove, 2001, A Clockwork Orange, and Barry Lyndon. After that, he's got movies like The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, Eyes Wide Shut, and then the older movies: The Killing, Paths of Glory, Spartacus, and Lolita.
Look at that run, though, man. The Killing, which is great. Paths of Glory, Spartacus, Lolita, Doctor Strangelove, 2001, A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, okay, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut. That is a fucking run right there.
Well, again, he's got a very good. Let's create a baseball type analytic stat, right? And it'll be for the percentage of their movies that were great. We'll call it the OBP.
Just throw in
or something. He's got a very high score in that particular measurement, and that has to count for something. I'm not sure he ever was a director for the masses.
Yeah, he's polarizing.
Yeah, unlike Spielberg, who makes movies that are both critically acclaimed and loved by film nerds, but also the general public, Kubrick's more of an acquired taste, I think. And I know first time I saw 2001, I was way not mature enough to understand what was going on. I just thought, what is this boring crap?
Yeah.
And I watch it from the other side now of my life, and I'm like, more boring crap, please. I love it. But yeah, very high OBP.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's so innovative because, I mean, if you look at, like, Hitchcock, who's a slam dunk for us, he kills off Janet Leigh in the beginning of Psycho, like the biggest person in his movie.
Balls.
And yeah, I mean, so I see a lot of similarities in Kubrick and Hitchcock, I think.
He's got 2 that I think everybody considers masterpieces: Dr. Strangelove and 2001. After that, you're going to have debate. Like Clockwork Orange is going to be debated because it's so violent and everything, just as the book was.
Right.
Barry Lyndon, because it's so dry and like hard to get into. The Shining, I think, has gotten more of a following over the years.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if people are ready to call it masterpiece, though.
You don't think?
Maybe they are.
I don't know. I'm clouded by my love of that movie. I can watch it I can watch it
It's
every
been a
fucking
long
time.
time, though, since I remember having conversations with somebody who didn't. I know it happened, but it's been a long time.
And Full Metal Jacket is polarizing. And it's because of the polarizing nature of the movie itself.
Yeah.
There's
to interject. Go ahead. Sorry. No,
there's
I'm sorry.
a great opening, and then the second half, you're either on board with it or you're not.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
So I saw this headline yesterday that said Matthew Modine says Full Metal Jacket was the most toxic environment he'd ever had the disprivilege of working in.
Really?
You click through the article, he's being literal. There was some kind of toxic garbage dump nearby that got a bunch of people sick working on the movie because it was literally a toxic environment. And some jackass said, I'm going to take this pull quote for the headline and make it sound like he hated working with the guy.
And that's interesting too, because I don't think I read his whole memoir on Full Metal Jacket, but I did read like a big, huge excerpt, I think. And maybe I read the whole thing. I don't remember. I used to when I was in movie theaters, I'd go through entire books sometimes, but I don't. When you said that, I was like, I don't remember him. I remember him saying that he and D'Onofrio were like apart a lot because D'Onofrio was doing all that method shit.
Yeah,
and he was, there were a lot of like little conflicts with actors and stuff for like screen time and all this attention and all that, but. I was like, it didn't seem like he came out of it going, I hate Kubrick, I hate D'Onofrio.
Right. No, he was being literal, and they just made a catchy headline. I thought, you bastards.
For a guy with a middling career, Modine has worked with 2 amazing directors, with Nolan and Kubrick, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so, but yeah, Full Metal Jacket, I watched Siskel and Ebert, the old 87 episode where they're debating this movie and everything, and Ebert liked it to a point. No, Siskel loved it, and Ebert hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Siskel, Ebert was saying this is just like every other Vietnam War movie that's ever come out. And then Siskel was like, no, this movie's a masterpiece, blah, 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 blah.
Hey, you can't make that argument, though. It is definitely not like that. Now,
yeah, I mean, he may not have said that.
No, sure, yeah. But,
Yeah.
I mean, we've had this conversation many times of how great the first part is. I think everybody is on board with that. Just because that to that point had really never been done. By the way, when I watched this the other day, like it's almost scoreless in that first part. Like you hear just the clump of the boots and stuff like that, and you get this rising anxiety the whole time. The second part is a typical war movie, Vietnam War movie, but it's a war movie directed by Stanley Kubrick, so it's really fucking good. You know, it's not like it's bad or anything like that. It's just like it is a little more standard than the first part.
Yeah. And then Eyes Wide Shut is another polarizing movie.
Love that movie.
I do too. And it's got a lot to grab onto and everything. And it's just, I think a lot of times people just like, it's too boring. I can't get into it.
It may be one of his most technically proficient movies. Mm-hmm. Like just the use of color and the use of framing and the close-up on Cruise's face when Nicole Kidman is telling him that story about the sailor that she was fantasizing about.
Yeah.
And he holds completely still.
But
It's one of the best Cruise performances I've ever
For
seen.
somebody that's famous for being so meticulous, it bothers me greatly how not New York all those streets look.
He did that on purpose, though.
He did it on purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because the whole movie is trying to set up a dreamlike feeling the entire time. And I've heard everybody...
I thought it was just that he didn't want to leave London, so
well,
he made
that's
everybody
part
come
of
there
it,
and shoot.
too. Obviously, he doesn't like flying.
Right.
But obviously, they could have made that look like New York if they wanted to. They could have gone to Pinewood or whatever. That's the only one I know in London. There's probably a million more. But they could have gone to one of these studios and made a New York that was believable. And if you look at it, it doesn't even look like a believable city.
No.
It's it's not just that it's not New York. It looks like it's a miniature type of... it looks like there's cardboard that you can punch
it looks like
through.
a set.
Yeah. So I do believe when you see him walking around and all that, it's supposed to invoke this dreamlike quality. And this is the reason why I get so into it. When I turn it on, it just sort of puts me in a trance the entire time. But yeah, you're right. It's not like New York at all. And
I think you guys should just be honest about how much you like watching orgies.
I mean,
it's
no. Look, I've been very upfront about my orgy watch.
There's been so many orgies and music videos recently, by the way, that I feel like all of them could have an outtake. And I did put one in the Fifth Harmony video of the dude, the Grand Master guy, with the circle of naked ladies around him going. That orgy is, by the way, the least sexy thing about that movie. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's just the most sexy thing about it?
That mirror scene.
The what scene?
The mirror scene.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's sexy.
I mean, half of it is sexy. And half of it is Tom Cruise eating Nicole Kidman's face.
Who are some others we want to discuss?
I thought we probably would throw out, there's a bunch of names, but I probably would throw out Coppola at some point. Just because the highs on his resume are super high. But again, I think he's got maybe more misses than some other candidates. Obviously, The Godfather and Godfather 2 are great. He's got Apocalypse Now. And those are probably his three most famous and beloved movies.
There is nobody on this list that you would immediately come up with on this topic and then instantly dismiss almost because his whole career of work depends on that Godfather series.
Oh yeah.
And he's got Apocalypse Now, he's got The Conversation. Everything else is like either sort of a failure or it's like, I kind of like that, or and then once he gets past The Rainmaker in 1997, like all of his movies are like either you've never seen it or it's just not good, or
I think he just got into wine.
Yeah,
I mean, because he built that estate out there, which I've been to, and it's gorgeous. But like, it's kind of just his thing now.
I've never seen a wine store that does not carry that brand.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several brands I enjoy drinking, and I'll have to go to certain stores in town because they don't all carry the same thing. They all carry that Coppola shit. Every single one of them.
There's something to be said about that. I mean, about getting fat and happy, basically.
Yep.
And I'm not saying anything about him or whatever. I'm just saying,
or his weight.
right. I'm just saying that once you get your money, it becomes like, what do I need to? How do I need to impress people anymore? Because I feel like I see that a lot with a lot of these people who make like tons of money really early on, and then they just kind of fade off after that.
It's kind of like a rock star. Like you're going to do your best work probably before you're 30, and then afterwards you're going to be Dave Grohl or something like that.
Hey, they just put out their 9th album, Dick.
Yeah. Actually, it's got a good
When
song.
did you turn on Dave Grohl?
No, he's adorable. But his best work was done when he was, before 30.
Did you watch any of that series where they went around to cities and wrote something? You didn't like any of that?
No, it was fine.
Jesus.
It was fine, but it wasn't the color and the shape, and it wasn't, Nirvana, and it wasn't There's Nothing Left to Lose.
All right.
Francis Ford Coppola has been nominated 4 times. 3 of those are Godfathers, and then Apocalypse Now, and then The Conversation is the other movie that I always cite for Coppola. He's won it once. That was for Godfather 2. And yeah, I think, think about the life that guy had with the Apocalypse Now and all the problems he had on that set and everything. And then just, then starting a huge successful winery and everything. I don't blame the guy. Yeah. I mean, it's, do what you want to do.
There's like a line of demarcation. Isn't it North? That's basically the line of demarcation of his career. The movie North.
No, that's Rob Reiner.
That's Rob Reiner.
But you're still right.
I'm thinking about Tucker, the Man in the Street.
Well, Tucker was definitely one of the. I mean, it was sort of the ironic thing. Tucker, Man in His Dream, was about a car that shooting big for a car that failed, and he tried to do that with a movie and failed.
Yep.
I also think that Jack is another movie
that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
That movie is asinine.
Right, yeah.
God, Robin Williams, God rest his soul, he made some really bad choices.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
Yes, he did. Jack, oh my God.
Toys.
I can see the studio money guy going, Robin Williams playing an 8-year-old? Gold!
Yeah, all the money.
But
give him all the money.
That's really literally where they stopped. They just rolled cameras for a few days. God, I hate that movie.
It's interesting. If Coppola had come out with even the Rainmaker is the closest that I can think of. I mean, some people give Cotton Club like it's.
I actually like Cotton Club.
Yeah,
that's a good movie.
I like Rainmaker a lot too.
And some people give. I mean, I guess it depends on your age. The Outsiders, especially considering everybody in Hollywood wanted roles in that thing.
Well,
but when you watch The Outsiders, it's like.
Don't say that to Josh. He loves it.
I'm going to say to Josh if he ever brings up The Outsiders.
Josh, are you listening? He said
Yeah. So he's got a few in there that people might want to bring up and say.
But it's nowhere near the peak.
Yeah. So, I almost like subconsciously, once I wrote down all the stuff that he was involved with, I was like, he's probably not going to make it.
No.
Yeah. Can I throw one out?
Go for it.
How about Tarantino?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think you just have a recency bias there, and it's going to be very hard. I think, just knowing the three of us, for somebody who's currently still making films regularly, other than like a Spielberg who's been doing it for 40 years, like Nolan's going to have a hard time. I think, and Tarantino's another one I think will have a tough time. He's got a pretty good track record, but for me, he's got some misses.
He's made 3, I think, classic movies. I think Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction, and Inglourious Bastards, I think, are up there.
Those are my 3 favorite of his.
And then everything else, to me at least, Reservoir Dogs, Django, Hateful Eight, all that stuff, is still like a double, a triple to me. Like, I think it's just really, really great filmmaking.
His track record of all the people who are recent, though, is better than almost anybody's. You have to put Tarantino in sort of, I guess, the context of like Nolan and. So
I think Nolan's OBP will challenge Tarantino's.
I got another one that's going to be
the only
close.
Mark on him is that Insomnia movie, which the more I see it, the more I like it.
And The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot. I still blame,
but his
not him.
Yeah, so Tarantino, like almost all of his movies are immediately recognizable, and they hit with a lot of people. But for most people, it's going to be Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and Inglourious Bastards. and they're gonna forget about Jackie Brown because I've heard I'll tell you what hurt me is when Django Unchained came out and everybody thought that was like all the rage and everything, and I remember talking to somebody at the theater and he was like, That's probably my favorite Tarantino movie of all time. And I was like, oh, man, really? He's like, it sure is better than that bullshit Jackie Brown. I was like, you
What?
motherfucker.
Oh, my God.
Those are fighting words.
Jeremy
man.
and I were almost late to the convention because we were watching Jackie Brown. Separately, not together.
Yeah. But looking at Nolan, it's Memento, it's two of the Batmans, it's The Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, and Dunkirk.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much almost always knocking it out of the park
Yep.
on every one of those. And there's two movies, really, and you can't really fault him for two movies
No, I
out of
agree.
that group. But also, he doesn't have the track record yet. Like, he could be like, if you look at some of these directors I looked up and sort of researched, they had a period of time, much like Nolan,
Mm-hmm.
and then fell off the cliff after that. So time will tell if Nolan deserves to be on there.
I guess, so Memento was 99?
2001.
2001. Okay, so we're working on basically 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
Of peak. But Dunkirk, man, I feel like the next time I see Dunkirk, I'm going to consider it like a classic.
I have never come out of a movie with the stronger feeling that the director of what I just watched is just not even playing the same game as everybody else in Hollywood. It's like his brain is on a whole different level. And yeah, I'm in for whatever he makes. It's the same with Fincher, and I think I'd bring Fincher into this conversation if he had done more films. Fincher seems to be leaning more the Kubrick way of taking a lot longer in between projects. And of course, he got a little sidetracked with Kevin Spacey show on Netflix, House of Cards.
Yeah, House of Cards.
And of course, his next movie is going to be World War Z 2,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I am pumped for. But anyway, those are probably the only two directors right now that I'm just like, whatever it is, I'm there.
Can we stay on Fincher for a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Another one that has directed 3 classic movies, probably, right?
Fight Club, Seven,
Zodiac. And then Social Network, actually, that would be 4.
And The Game, I think, is
I love The
definitely
Game.
worth mentioning.
Right.
It wasn't a huge hit or anything, but Fincher is interesting. 2 nominations, Social Network and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Of all
which is
movies.
my
Yeah.
least favorite of his.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, 7, The Game, Fight Club, Zodiac, and Gone Girl. All
It's great. And
either big hits or critical hits.
And I'll throw in a little bit that he's like an iconic music video director. He did Billy Idol's Cradle of Love.
Mm-hmm.
He did Madonna's Vogue.
Yep.
He did George Michael's Freedom 90.
Yep.
He did Paul Abdul's Forever You Girl, which I like. And he did Aerosmith's Janie's Got a Gun.
Yeah.
The guy's killing it.
One of the few MTV guys to come in and actually start making great movies. Of course, it took an Alien 3 before he got into really good movies. But
Yeah.
but Fincher, like, it seemed like everybody who was a music video guy, like Michael Bay or a commercial guy or something like that, was getting into movies in the 90s, and they were all these hyperkinetic, super quick edited type of movies, and he was the only one who said, no, we're not doing that with movies. This is a different medium.
I think Spike Jonze did that a little bit too.
Yeah,
'Cause I
although
think-
Spike Jonze you're not wrong. It's just that Spike Jonze has like 4 total movies,
Yeah.
pretty much.
No, totally.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Spike Jonze is definitely on that
Yeah.
list.
All right, who are we talking about? Should we go way, way back? Do we need to go back to somebody like?
Well, I do want to go way, way back.
Let's do it.
I've got a few actually that I want to talk about. David Lean is a name that I'm sure a lot of like huge film fans are going to be like, you have to mention David Lean. Nominated 7 times, won twice. He won twice for 2 movies that I hold in very high esteem: The Bridge on the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh.
He got nominated for a movie I've never seen, Brief Encounter. Then he did A Great Expectations, a movie called Summertime, and then Dr. Zhivago. That's I did not like Dr. Zhivago.
I'm sure there's some sort of meditative brilliance to
I'll tell you
that
what.
movie.
On the strength of Dr. Zhivago, right now, I'm blackballing this motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, and he did his last big splash was A Passage to India, which was in 1984. But Dr. Zhivago, yeah, that's a movie that I didn't watch forever, and it's like over 3 hours long and everything. And I popped it in one day, and I was like, this is what we're considering? Oh, I missed it. I don't know what it is.
No, it went right by me.
Yeah, but that's a solid track record. I'm missing a few probably that he's considered great for. Those are the main ones. Those two huge ones in there. But I don't know. I guess it's some of these that may have not have endured as far as like the conversation. Brief Encounter, Great Expectations. Everybody's done a Great Expectations now. There's like a million Great Expectations.
Everybody's got
right.
You'll get a Great Expectation.
Well, and as I was writing down directors and everything, I even tried out Alfonso Cuarón, and it was like he's got a Great Expectation.
Yes, he does. The one Barrett likes.
That's right.
That's right. So David Lean, I think, is worth talking about. It's just that maybe possibly over time, there's really only 2 movies. Well, maybe 3. I'll include Zhivago because there's so many people who hold that in high esteem.
For reasons I do not understand.
But, you know, he's got 3 heavy hitters.
Lawrence of Arabia is fantastic.
Oh, Lawrence
Still
of Arabia
great.
is so good. But yeah, you guys got other classics? I've got several.
I've got several too.
Go ahead.
Frank Capra, we got to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Who I famously couldn't remember his name on the Trivia Schmodown, even though Arsenic and Old Lace, I've seen it like 40 times. I was saved after because Leonard Maltin was agreeing with me that it doesn't feel like a Capra movie.
Right.
Because when you think Frank Capra, most people think It's a Wonderful Life, but he made several classics that made plenty of money and were beloved. So I think he's got to be in the discussion.
Frank Capra, we've talked about him a few times. There was one, I don't remember what the topic was.
It was like the greatest runs in history.
And Capra had one because it was just one after another. Movies you've heard and you still watch and whatever, but nominated 6 times. He's won 3 times. His first nomination was for Lady for a Day, which I've never heard of.
Me neither.
But then It Happened One Night, Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, You Can't Take It With You. He won for those, but then the movies he's really known for,
he didn't win. He
didn't win for. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, It's a Wonderful Life. Actually, he didn't even get nominated for It's a Wonderful Life.
Wow.
No,
Christmas movies are.
No, wait a minute.
He
did. He did. But then there's 2 movies he didn't get nominated for: is Meet John Doe and Arsenic and Old Lace. The Capra may have gotten a little derailed there in the 40s because he was doing those propaganda World War II movies for a while there. And I think that may have sidetracked him a little bit, although I think It's a Wonderful Life came out after World War II. It's 46?
That sounds
46.
46.
So that I don't think the war was over. No, 45 is when it ended, right?
Yeah. So I think he did come out with. It came out with. It seems like he does taper off after World War II, though. But man, what a hell of a run he had there.
Yep.
He still continued to make movies after that, but nothing nearly as big and as popular as those.
Yeah, but he's got to be a consideration.
Yeah.
I would put him in the on deck circle, but it's going to be a little crowded there here. In a couple minutes.
Yeah. You got another one?
Well, I mean, how familiar are you guys with like the Truffaut and the French cinema and Fellini and
here's the thing that this is where we're going to have our biggest controversy, I think, among the people who are true cinephiles who may possibly listen to the show, because I'm not totally familiar. Like Jean-Luc Godard, I've seen like one movie. I saw Breathless. Truffaut, I haven't seen Jules and Jim. I've seen the 400 Blows though, I think.
Okay.
So I've seen a couple of his greatest, and then you said Fellini, which I think I've only seen 8.5. I named some of those. I wrote out a lot of those, and I was like, man, I'm just not coming up with a lot of movies I've heard of that should be like hitting, should be immediate. Like,
right.
Oh my God, these guys are amazing.
Just like with the bracket, let's remind the listeners again, this is our Mount Rushmore.
Right.
The 3 of us. And, I can hold up on 0 fingers how much I know about the French New Wave stuff. 0. So it's going to be hard to get my vote just because I don't know.
Even so, I don't know if they have the body of work that a Hitchcock and Spielberg have. Some of these directors may actually be technically better than some of these that we're going to end up putting up on there or whatever. But they never came out with something that was like had that kind of cultural impact.
Kind of
now they had a
translation.
huge impact that we don't really see today. They were sort of what that whole auteur theory and everything came out around that time, where directors were considered the author of the film, and that's where really influenced American cinema in the 70s. So like a lot of the directors were getting to do whatever they wanted, and they didn't have to worry about the studios as much as they do today, so on and forth. That's where their impact is felt.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the movies they made, we don't really like come back and refer to like tons of them.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to get at.
I got you. Two controversial picks,
Okay.
but would definitely have the breadth. Roman Polanski and Woody Allen.
Yeah, well, and I almost said something at the start of this specifically about Polanski, and then when I was thinking it, I was reminded Woody Allen's in the same kind of boat.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know. At least in Polanski's case, I am 99.9% sure he did what everybody says he did. And
Well,
that he
otherwise he
left the
wouldn't
country.
still be.
I'm going to say this, though. Polanski, as much as we hold a couple of his movies in high regard, he still doesn't have, I don't think he has a huge like list of movies here. Chinatown is obviously classic.
Right.
And Rosemary's Baby is held in high esteem.
Mm-hmm.
And some may hold The Pianist in high esteem. I thought it was good.
Right.
I mean, it's certainly one of his, one of the movies you have to mention. But I was going through his list, and I could only come up with 6 movies that I would really consider. So he's got Tess. He was nominated for Tess. He was nominated 3 times, 1 win for The Pianist of all movies.
Yeah.
Chinatown, Tess, The Pianist, and then he has Rosemary's Baby, The Ghostwriter, which I really love,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
and Frantic, which is Harrison Ford looking for his wife.
Leading to a bare naked ladies lyric.
Definitely. All the movies that you look at for Polanski after he's been exiled, except for The Pianist, are either... Well, I mean, The Ghostwriter, I guess, too.
Mm-hmm.
Are either they're minor or they just, I don't know. It's he doesn't have a lot of heavy hitters. And
That's a
on
good
his
point.
list.
Well, and see, to counter that, I think Woody Allen does have a lot of heavy-hitting movies.
Mhm.
But the problem is he's a production machine. So
Yeah.
he's got a lot of forgettable ones, too.
Yeah.
So his OBP, I'm going to have to come up with something that stands for, would be like around 50, 60% maybe 70.
It's probably true. He's been, and, man, I wonder sometimes, is Woody Allen a great director? His
Oh, yeah.
He's got a couple where he's shown the flair behind the camera, but most of his movies are script driven.
Yes.
Like he doesn't have Manhattan is obviously a beautiful director work.
Right.
And so is Match Point, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's him exercising muscles that he doesn't usually. Most of the time though, I think he's just putting the camera down and he's letting people talk.
I can see that.
And maybe I'm not really
looking
at it.
I don't know, man. Like I just saw To Rome with Love. Forgettable movie overall, but it's got some really nice shots in it, which was interesting to me because like he's actually he works right around Match Point when he went into this whole European phase. He started working with close-ups a lot more because normally it was just wide shots and everything, but with like when he was filming Scarlett Johansson in particular, he would get like right up.
Well,
in
I
there.
would too.
Exactly. But it was a different type of Woody Allen. So I mean, but he does have something like Manhattan, Annie Hall, Crimes and Misdemeanors, Match Point. His Top Gear is one of the best Top Gears ever.
It is interesting. I mean, I have to think about it a lot because he does show flair like that. If he did this. If he took time between movies and did this all the time, he would have an amazing amount of work. I think just the guy just likes. I
just feel like for every Manhattan, there's a small time Crooks. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
for every
anything
Crimes
else.
and Misdemeanors, there's a celebrity.
Yeah, Hollywood ending.
Yeah, and I just that one where Scarlett Johansson's like some kind of writer, and there's like magic and a ghost.
Scoop.
Yeah, not a fan.
But then you got Mighty Aphrodite. There's just so much variety to this guy, even though he has a style, obviously. But
you're making the Babe Ruth argument. Yeah, he strikes out every other at bat, but every other at bat is a big home run.
But would you put Babe Ruth on a baseball hall of Mount Rushmore?
We definitely would.
I think we definitely would.
Woody Allen's been nominated 7 times as director, and of course, countless times as writer. I think he's going to be known more as a writer than a director when all is said and done.
Certainly not an actor.
No. Nominated 7 times for Annie Hall, Interiors, Broadway Danny Rose, Hannah and Her Sisters, Crimes and Misdemeanors, Bullets Over Broadway, and Midnight in Paris. Those are the 7 he's been nominated for. He didn't get nominated for Manhattan, Stardust Memories, Zelig, The Purple Rose of Cairo, Manhattan Murder Mystery, and Match Point, where the other movies I just randomly assigned as far as his big ones. There's others, obviously. That's the thing. Alan has a lot of minor stuff that is good. How much of a cultural impact has he had?
A ton.
Like, as far as... I think, huge amount of impact. Again, I just wonder how many people emulate his style as far as director is concerned. I think there's no doubt, writing-wise, he might be second to none as far as writing is concerned. But
I don't know. You could make a case that he's copying the French directors and the European influences
Bergman.
and stuff like that. Yeah, Bergman. And so he's kind of almost like a Tarantino-esque adopter of other styles and putting it into his own. I think he's unique in that. And we've talked before about Annie Hall and its use of like dream sequences and things like that he typically doesn't do. And then putting like the Greek chorus and Mighty Aphrodite. And I don't know, like I really think he transcends when he knocks it out of the park, which is not often.
a lot of, I mean, and I've read some parts of about Woody Allen, and I don't think he really cares whether or not it's a huge hit or not. He doesn't have very many huge hits on his list either. So as far as when I'm trying to get to cultural impact on this, it's not so much that how much he's influenced other people. It's more about what are the movies that we still talk about that he does. Annie Hall, and occasionally people come up with some lines for other movies. It seems like it's just
Manhattan.
Yeah, Manhattan is in there, but I'm just saying even Manhattan, as good as it is, there's not a lot of people who are bringing up Manhattan.
No,
yeah, I guess.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Woody Allen is an interesting one. I think it is definitely the most controversial pick out of all of the ones who have that kind of body of work.
And he's got a great Mount Rushmore face.
He does. You would know exactly who the fuck that is.
but also some baggage.
Yeah, and do we want to put that person on our Mount Rushmore?
But what if you put him in the Jefferson spot where he's like, he's in the middle, he's tucked away, so he's not like super there.
Yeah, but
if we were doing the stand-up comedians Mount Rushmore, would we put Bill Cosby up there?
The question is, if Bill Cosby had already been put on a Mount
Would
Rushmore,
we take him down?
would we take him down?
We would just re-chisel until he became Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah. There you go.
I don't know why I went that direction. Well, okay, just to save face, we got to talk about Kurosawa a little bit.
Yep, that was another one.
Otherwise, we'll never hear the end of it. Now, I was shown Rashomon in school, in college. Loved it. I've seen The Seven Samurai. I have not seen all of his work, but there's like Orson Welles level like invention going on here in the way films are made. And the reason Rashomon gets shown to you in college is because it does that perspective skewing thing where every new person who tells the story of the events tells it slightly differently because of their perspective. And that was the point we were trying. It was a communications class, actually. The main point she was trying to make is that two people on the same street corner can watch the same car accident and give police completely different stories. And then she showed us this movie. She must have just been a Kurosawa fan, maybe. I don't know. But what do you guys think?
Well, here's one that is. I mean, I saw nearly all of his movies when the Belcourt ran his retrospective.
Awesome.
I missed a couple, but Akira Kurosawa has a lot of huge hits. I mean, a huge like heavy hitter type movies on his resume. You mentioned Rashomon. Ikiru is one. The Seven Samurai, of course, is one of his all-time. The Hidden Fortress, who George Lucas always refers back to as sort of inspiring Star Wars. I think mainly C-3PO and R2-D2 type stuff, not really the whole universe or anything. And Yojimbo, and then a movie. One of his last ones was it's called Ron. That was his only nomination. That just goes to show like how long the Academy just didn't pay attention to his work for a long time. I think Kurosawa's got so many heavy hitters in this, and I haven't even mentioned some of the good ones that I saw. I Live in Fear is another good one. There's a lot of like really good movies on his list that I didn't include because I didn't think a lot of people know them. But he's got several readily available people off the street know that at least the title of the movie.
Well, yeah, but how much cultural impact? Cultural impact, influential wise, but how many Americans have seen a good bit of Kurosawa films?
Not many.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't think Woody Allen has much better percentage. If I'm being honest.
Oh, really?
If I'm being honest, like Joe Schmo who goes to the summer box office
Batman versus Superman.
3 times a summer.
Yeah,
it's probably never seen a Woody Allen movie.
Really?
I doubt it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why would they?
You think by accident. There's so many of them.
On accident.
That he would just run
dang it,
by.
I accidentally saw a Woody Allen film.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I think you could go out, man on the street interviews, and very few are going to probably know who Kurosawa is or have seen his films. But I feel like it's probably the same with Orson Welles. And the influence is still there. Like, you can't say nobody else would have eventually done it, but we don't get movies like Courage Under Fire if we don't have Rashomon.
Yeah.
And plenty of directors modernly have skewed that whole perspective thing and played with it, but he was the first notable feature-length film director to really give us that experience and kind of fuck with the audience a little bit. And that has to count for something. Again, we're talking cultural impact versus like film school impact. Anybody that goes to film school knows Woody Allen and Kurosawa and has probably seen all their movies.
Let's see. There's a couple other classic directors here. One is John Ford, who I think that this is when Spielberg. I can't remember which movie.
Wasn't he the coward that shot? What's his name in the back?
The man who shot Liberty Valance. He did that.
No, I mean
the assassination of that was Robert Ford.
Jesse
wasn't it?
James by the coward.
I see what you're saying.
Somebody Ford.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he has a movie called The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance too. So that's what you're talking about. No, it was Orson Welles who had his crew watch Stagecoach, or he watched Stagecoach over and over. Or was it Spielberg? I can't remember what it was.
I didn't hear that.
One of those directors watched that movie over and over and over again to sort of learn how to do suspense and action and that type of stuff. Spielberg may have done it, but it may have been Orson Welles who watched Stagecoach over and over and over again before he did Citizen Kane. And I don't know why, because Citizen Kane doesn't really have Stagecoach type stuff in it. But
doesn't really have action.
Yeah. John Ford was nominated 5 times. He won 4 times.
Wow.
And he won back-to-back 1 year, 2 years, and then he skipped a year and won again the next year. He won for The Informer, Stagecoach. Then he didn't win for How Green Was My Valley, but that beat Citizen Kane for Best Picture. And then he won for The Grapes of Wrath and The Quiet Man. And then you have How the West Is Won, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and The Searchers are all movies on John Ford's list. Tremendous record there.
Swinging for the fences.
Yeah. Again, Ford has a huge amount of influence on a lot of things that we see, a lot of directors who are still working and all that. Yeah. But what movies do we still talk about with John Ford?
Right. How Green Was My Valley?
Yeah.
That goes back to that Frasier episode where he wants to watch How Green Is My Valley, but the video store only has one copy, and the lady had overheard him asking about it and grabbed it before he could.
I'm sorry. I'm completely wrong. How Green Was My Valley? He did win. What did he not win for? He didn't win for Stagecoach. That was the one. Okay, so
really?
Stagecoach he didn't win for.
Interesting.
It was How Green Was My Valley he won for. But he's won 4 times, and he had, let's see, one for The Quiet Man. He won for How Green Was My Valley. He won for Grapes of Wrath. Those were the back-to-back ones. And he won for The Informer. But yeah, another. Yeah, exactly. Let's bring up that. Let's bring up that cultural sweetheart here in the middle of them.
I bet you more people know that song than have seen Kurosawa films.
You're probably right.
Joe Blow
You're probably right.
Snow's Informer. Let's go to see Batman versus Superman.
Another guy that we would be remiss not to mention is Billy Wilder. Billy Wilder, 8 nominations, 2 wins. He won for The Lost Weekend and The Apartment. Nominated for Double Indemnity, Sunset Boulevard, Stalag 17, Sabrina, Witness for the Prosecution, Some Like It Hot, And other movies that he's done that you may have heard of: The Fortune Cookie, The Spirit of St. Louis, and The 7-Year Itch.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
That is a robust catalog.
Yes, absolutely.
I bet you people who have heard of half those movies wouldn't even be able to tell you the director's
You're
name.
probably right.
But I think that's more. I think they are more talked about his body of work than John Ford's that we just went through. I think those movies are still more culturally relevant today.
Between Sunset Boulevard and 7-Year Itch alone, like those are two powerhouses.
Yeah, Some Like It Hot and The Apartment. The Apartment won Best Picture. Those are some tremendous amount of hits and critical darlings and everything like that. When I went through Billy Wilder, I was like, man, this guy has a real shot. I mean, even though we don't, look at some of these movies that we still talk about.
Yeah.
And then there's some we don't, but I mean, to think that back in the day, these were movies that people talked about. So, Billy Wilder, he's got a huge
That's
resume.
Good. That's good. I'm glad we're repping the back in the day well, because I really think that would have been our shortcoming like a year and a half ago if we tried to do this.
Right.
Well, just for length of career, I don't think he's going to win purely on blood work, but Clint Eastwood. And he started with, what was the first directing? It was one of his classic
Play
westerns.
Misty for me, I think, was his first
Oh,
movie.
okay.
Yeah, his first movie's Play Misty for me, then High Plains Drifter.
That's the one I'm thinking of, High Plains Drifter. But go ahead, you're looking at it. Rattle off some of the big hitters he's done.
So you have The Outlaw Josie Wales. You have, and then for a while, his biggest movie, and I don't think even Dirty Harry fans. Well, Sudden Impact is definitely up there on there. Some people love Heartbreak Ridge. I thought that was
I love Heartbreak Ridge.
Thought that was an enjoyable movie.
Smells like a Ben Gay factory around here.
Yeah, his first big like Academy thing was Unforgiven.
Right.
A lot of people love A Perfect World. That's another movie. I haven't seen that in forever, but I
only saw it
remember I liked it a lot. And then he had that weird period there where he's like Bridges of Madison County and Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil and all that, and Absolute Power and True Crime and
What'd you think of Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil?
Oh man,
Yeah?
No to that movie.
No.
I just think I like Spacey's performance in that.
Well, it's hard not to like Spacey in anything, though.
Then he started this huge sort of renaissance where it seemed like he was always in the picture as far as Academies. Mystic River,
Yeah.
$1 Million Baby,
Yeah.
Flags of Our Fathers, and Letters from Iwo Jima. Changeling, which I really love. Gran Torino, which is a great movie.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple here: Invictus, Hereafter, and J. Edgar, which I don't like. Jersey Boys, and then American Sniper is another big one. And Sully, which is an interesting movie to say the least.
It's so weird. Anyone could literally have directed that when I watched that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It could be,
Ron Howard could do it.
Well, it could be Zemeckis.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, there's like 5 directors. It feels like, but it doesn't feel like a Spielberg movie.
Tremendous.
I mean, a Eastwood movie.
Yeah. It does. I mean, it could be. Yeah, you're right. Anybody could have done that. And plus, man, I hate the fact that they made this movie so soon after all the events.
Yeah, no kidding.
And like it was easily verifiable as they just added some bullshit in that movie,
Yeah.
And it was hard for me to. I mean, it's enjoyable. Like if they could have just not called it Sully and changed like what happened and everything, it would have been a fine movie.
Yeah,
Shirley.
Yeah, exactly. Shirley or Surly.
The guy from The Nut Job.
Eastwood's been nominated 4 times. He's won twice. $1 Million Baby and Unforgiven.
Man, I was watching Mystic River again like 5-6 days ago. It's so rich.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a depressing movie. It's not a movie you feel happy watching, but it's just got layers, man.
That's imagine if you were to get all the Dennis Lehane books and just read them all
Seriously?
back and forth. You would probably just like,
My wife has.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How is Candy a chipper person?
I don't know, man. I guess she spaces it out.
Yeah.
This guy's just got to have so much pain.
Yeah.
All he writes about is pain.
Oh my god.
And Boston.
Yeah.
Boston pain.
Boston pain.
Yeah.
Can I throw out one more?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Jimmy Cameron. Where
Yeah.
do we go here? Because
Cameron
Is that
is
the guy from Good Times?
yeah, exactly.
Cameron's a guy a lot like Kubrick.
Yep.
I'm gonna nix Cameron.
Really? Because
I'll-
of Avatar alone?
I'll let you punch me in the face. Because of Avatar alone, but also Yes, because of Avatar.
Terminator, Terminator 2, Aliens, True Lies. I mean, the guy,
Abyss.
The Abyss. He's got a good
But
record.
then you're done, right?
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah. Well, you've also got Avatar 2, Avatar 3, Avatar 4.
Well,
Avatar
and
5.
this is a man, now granted, he's probably a shill, but said Terminator Genesis was the best Terminator yet.
Yeah.
Now he's getting actively involved in bringing Did you see they hired Tim Miller, Deadpool's director, to do the new Terminator movie, Terminator 6?
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. Anyway, because of Avatar alone, it sinks the
And
rest of
Titanic, too. I mean, you got
Titanic is a visual, spectacular achievement.
That's the thing, though. That's the problem with Cameron. He has the exact same problem as Kubrick, only even more of a problem than Kubrick does, because he just does nothing for years and years and years.
Right.
Like, he took a longer period of time between Titanic and Avatar than I think Kubrick did in any part of his career.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And it might be, was it the exact same amount of
It was
time?
97, 98.
97 was Titanic. Avatar was 2009.
2009.
So that's the exact amount of period of time
Mhm.
that Kubrick took between Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just got few and far between. And then once you start looking at the movies, I think Terminator, Terminator 2, and Aliens are definite
Mm-hmm.
like classics.
Mm-hmm.
Abyss is hard to really sell for some people.
You-
True Lies is I don't know, kind of dated.
It's kind of
Yeah, a little
dated
bit.
and 35 minutes too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Titanic is another one you're going to split a lot of people down the
Yeah.
middle on, and Avatar is another one that splits people down the middle.
Yeah.
Although, as far as cultural hits and everything, you can't really deny that almost everything he comes out with is instant.
I would not
it's
deny
an
that.
instant huge hit, and he's worth being in the conversation.
Yeah, no, for real.
I just don't know if he's got the body of work.
Well, and I think we have to pay him a little bit of respect for some of the stuff he's done technologically.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of pushing the boundaries of what can and can't be done in film.
Mhm.
And I think that's admirable.
Mm-hmm.
This guy seems like generally an ass. Like in real life, I don't think I would like him one bit. But, yeah, you're right. Almost all his movies make a lot of money and everybody loves them.
Okay, so I guess there's a couple more I want to throw out. I don't know if they have chances of winning, but I do want to mention them. Ridley Scott,
Mm-hmm.
I would say he has 7 movies I'd bring up. Now, a couple of these, some people they're not going to, but he's gotten 3 nominations. Thelma and Louise, Gladiator, and Black Hawk Down are his nominations. But then the movies he's known for, Alien, Blade Runner, and The Martian, these movies are movies that he did not get nominated for. And Matchstick Men, which is another movie that I love. And
That's a good one.
Ridley Scott is like Woody Allen. He makes a movie almost every year.
Yep.
And so he's got a lot of misses. And he's got a lot of hits for sure. A lot of misses.
He's got a really varied career, too. I mean, think about Thelma and Louise versus Alien, you know?
Mhm.
And that's
Oh yeah.
a chasm.
Yeah.
Well, especially considering, how, well, I guess both of those movies are pretty good feminist movies, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I think you would call Ripley's character arc like a pro-female.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
There you go. That's a good
And I
time.
know Thelma and Louise was a big hit with the ladies.
Mhm. Brad Pitt, man.
Well, I think it had to do with female empowerment a little bit, too.
That was the main thing. But Brad Pitt, like that's all I could freaking hear about after that movie came out.
Oh, yeah, man, that was
and
what put him
I
on the
think
map.
I think if I had been old enough to watch that movie, I would have been also been in love with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
Thelma and
like-
Louise is such a good movie, man. When she comes out of that bar, I think it's Susan Sarandon that comes out and just blows dude away.
Mhm.
That's been like hitting on him. Of course, he's getting handsy.
Well,
and, like,
she blows up his truck.
I thought she shot him.
No, she blows up his truck.
Ah,
Like it's a gas truck or something like
She
that.
took a Louisville slug in both headlights.
Yes, indeed.
but it's a very good movie.
Yeah. But
I
really,
just realized that song is Thelma and Louise the song.
Sure.
Mhm.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, there's others that, we could mention, but they have they either have the same problem as Nolan and all these guys who've been only doing it for 15, 20 years,
Or they have too many misses.
or they have too many missions.
Like Rob Reiner needs to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Danny Boyle.
I wanted to bring up, and this would be, I don't think I want to come up with a comparison. Hal Ashby is a guy that had a tremendous period of work. He died in the 80s though. And I wonder if Hal Ashby would have continued to make great movies well into, the 90s and everything like that. He made Coming Home. That was his one nomination. But he made Harold and Maude, The Last Detail, Shampoo, Bound for Glory, and Being There. All are heavy hitters. He also made a movie called The Slugger's Wife, which I talked about in brief. It's just one of the worst baseball movies I've ever seen in my life. And maybe it's because it's just like Trouble with the Curve. It's about the Atlanta Braves, and they're
too close.
They're
too sensitive.
They're just I don't know. They're just shitty movies. But Hal Ashby is a guy that I don't think very many people it doesn't roll off the tongue because he's not. He's not with us anymore. He died way back in the 80s, but he's got a pretty good roster there.
You know what would be kind of awesome, even though we're not going to do it and we shouldn't? But if we did like the Mount Rushmore is Hitchcock, Spielberg, I don't know, Coppola, and John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Because I think at least cult influence and filmmaking influence, John Carpenter would be in the conversation. It's just that a lot of his movies just aren't very good.
Bats.
Like Ghosts of Mars.
It's not bats, it's vampires. Or did
Vampires.
we do both?
Vampires. Oh, that's the one with James
Woods.
We haven't even gotten to the Coen brothers yet.
Oh, yeah.
Now there's a modern director I think that maybe would have a shot. Now, the only problem is, do we do half of each of their faces to make up one face? Because we can't have five faces.
No, you would have an amalgamation of both faces.
Okay, all right, I would be. Well,
or you could just put them like Siamese twin style on the.
Nobody knows what they look like anyway. Nobody's gonna notice.
You're probably right.
Coen Brothers have a great.
They have a huge amount of movies that people still refer to. I mean, there's not one major critic that doesn't cite Blood Simple. That was their first major movie. But then they, I think three comedies in particular, like maybe weren't huge hits, but people quote them constantly, and that's Raising Arizona, The Big Lebowski, and Burn After Reading.
Mm-hmm.
Their Oscar winners are like Fargo and No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
They have a lot of movies that like we love in this room, but people on the outside don't, like Hudsucker Proxy. Barton Fink is another movie that's a
weird
polarizing movie for a lot of people. Miller's Crossing as well. And I'm trying to find Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That's their biggest hit, I believe.
I think monetarily, yes.
Maybe No Country, I don't know. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Definitely one of their biggest hits. And then there's stuff that even, I know that a lot of people don't like A Serious Man, but I love that movie.
Oh yeah, I was
really
watching that. I was watching The Man Who Wasn't There last night.
Yeah, that was
and
on.
That's,
I saw
talk
that.
about a quiet fucking movie, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's black and white, isn't it?
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton is whispering his narration essentially all the way through it. Yeah.
He's got that moment where, because he's a barber and he's cutting hair, he never says shit. He doesn't say anything. And he's just a simple dude that's straightforward. He looks at the hair and he's like, it's kind of weird. We take off like a part of the human condition. We have this hair. And the guy's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, oh, never mind.
And True Grit might be their biggest hit. I didn't realize.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I didn't realize, and I have too. And that's the thing. Like True Grit, it's
really
weird
good.
that they make it. Yeah, it's good. They made a remake. It's kind of interesting that they delved into that. Inside Llewyn Davis is polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people love that movie.
And Tall Brook Cruelty is probably the one that most people can agree on not like.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't like the Lady Killers too, and
I like that.
I like the Lady Killers, but man, the Coen brothers definitely have a solid body.
Do you think they have the best case of, outside of Spielberg, of working directors, modern best directors?
I'm going to put my nuts on the table right now and say that I think of the modern directors that Fincher would get my vote.
Wow, those are some unexpected nuts.
That is some balls.
Between Zodiac, Social Network,
compared to the Coen brothers,
I would give it to the Coen brothers before him. I'd give it to Nolan before
we
him.
Can't put two directors, though.
We're just going to mesh them together.
I don't think that works.
Well, the DGA doesn't either. They call it Joel Coen, and that's it. So we'll make it Joel Coen. Just like the DGA does.
Is it Ethan that always gets a writing credit?
I think so.
Yeah. But they're both directors, and it would be stupid just because they are two people. We can't put
it's
them
two
on.
people. You can't put it's four faces.
You can put it on there like a Hydra on the
It's two. It'll be 3 giant stone heads and 2 small stone heads.
Gonna have to do it, man.
All right, so are we done throwing out the nominations? Because I've got like our 2 locks and I've got our on deck that we can vote on.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, obviously there's a few others, but I just don't think there's any way that some of these other guys that I've written stuff down for are going to surpass. We didn't mention Robert Altman.
Mm-mm.
Altman is another guy. 5 nominations. Had a huge period of time there where it was just like everything he did. MASH, Nashville, The Player, Shortcuts, Gosford Parker, all of his nominations. But then after his 5 movies there's 2 movies that I could really cite as people consider it all the time. McCabe, Mrs. Miller, and Long Goodbye are the other ones. And then after that, there's a lot of like, there's either shit or there's just,
Shortcuts.
Pret-a-porter.
Shortcuts. You take that back.
You like Shortcuts?
Everybody loves fucking
I
Shortcuts.
don't like Shortcuts.
I didn't like Shortcuts.
It's like got an 8.0 on IMDb or
Really?
something like
I'm
that.
willing to be wrong.
No, Shortcuts is certainly not The Player or anything like that, but he got nominated for Shortcuts. And,
Did he really?
Yeah. And I was surprised too when I looked at the IMDb how high of a score it had, because I remember people not liking it that much. I very much enjoyed Shortcuts. Now the movie after that, Pret-a-Porter, the Ready to Wear,
that's terrible.
That's a shitty movie.
Oh yeah.
I didn't like Gosford Park. I didn't think that was a really
I didn't
good.
either, and then I watched it again, and I love it now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, love Gosford
That's
Park.
what happened with me in that new U2 song.
Oh, yeah?
Have you started liking it anymore?
I've only heard it once.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a good round of people, and if we've missed somebody, goddamn.
We've definitely missed some people, and obviously we didn't talk about the female directors too that come to mind, or like Amy Heckerling and Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah, but even those,
Penny Marshall.
and you can blame Hollywood itself a lot of times on those. They have a couple of big ones, and then a lot of minor ones after that. And
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, Jodie Foster, and it's probably because.
Hollywood's a bunch of dickhead men that don't want to hire women.
Yeah, white men too.
If they gave Catherine Bigelow the same chance that fucking Brett Ratner had, then we'd be talking about how amazing X-Men: The Last Stand is.
Yeah. All right, so lock number 1 is Alfred Hitchcock. Great face. I see him in Washington's spot.
Okay, is that all the far left?
Far left.
Okay.
Yeah.
He needs to be on one of the ends.
Yeah.
So we get that
almost in profile. Yeah. I would say Spielberg is where Lincoln is on the far right.
On the far right.
Yeah. And so do we put Spielberg with the beard or without the beard? It's got to be with the beard, right?
Yeah.
He's had the beard the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little bit of synchronicity with Abraham Lincoln and the beard. Okay, so here's our kind of middle ground here. We got Frank Capra. We got Stanley Kubrick. We got Marty Scorsese. We got Woody Allen. I put Woody Allen on there.
Of course you did.
We got the Coen brothers. We got Kurosawa. And I put Fincher and Nolan in there. I guess we could probably take them out, even though I really want to make a case for Fincher.
Okay.
All right. Well, why don't we just go around and vote for the third spot?
The third spot?
See how long it takes us.
Okay, what's your third spot?
Capra.
Yours is Capra.
Ooh, yeah. I think it would be hard to deny Capra on this with as many of the movies we still talk about today and that huge run he had there.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we, am I just agreeing and saying, yes, we should put Capra?
Do we all agree, or 2 out of the 3 of us have to agree that he deserves the
But
third
I think
spot?
it doesn't have to be cut and dry like the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had, for some reason, you really didn't want Capra to get in,
Mm-hmm.
I think we could pause and let you make an argument.
I think Capra, I guess that's the earliest one. I guess Hitchcock was in the late 50s, mid-50s to...
Well, that's when most of his work, what we know is, but he started way back when it was like silent films.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was, I think, I'm trying to remember, but he was way back into the 30s when he first started coming out with talkies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think he has more than the stuff that we know, like... So, I think he started working with the silent films. I'm not sure.
I don't think you can deny Capra. I think Frank Capra has to be on the Mount Rushmore.
All right.
So now we're battling for the 4th spot.
It's going to be tough.
I got to put Stanley Kubrick in there. I mean, can you imagine a Mount Rushmore without Stanley Kubrick? I guess maybe you could.
Well, I could,
Yeah.
but...
Other ones, Scorsese really has a good case. Woody Allen, Coen brothers, Kurosawa.
Yeah, for me, it's between Scorsese and the Coen brothers.
Oh, really?
And I think the Coen brothers, with as varied of a career as they've had, and how many movies that are box office hits, how many cultural impact movies they have, how many Oscar winners they have, all these type of things, it'd be impossible for me to deny the Coen brothers on this. I feel like they deserve that 4th spot.
What do you think, Jeremy?
I'm not lying when I say that Kubrick, Kurosawa, and the Coen brothers are all pretty equal for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think, despite his impact, that Kurosawa's films are a little too not mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Coen brothers have more than Kubrick does. Coen brothers.
Coen brothers.
All right.
5 Faces. The first time
We fucked it up the first time.
The first time we got 4
You
choices.
had one job, Bear,
5.
Jeremy, and Chris.
You know what? No, your outrage is bullshit. I'm going to call you out on this. 5 Faces. Who gives a fuck?
5 Faces.
Who
This
gives
would
a
be
shit?
4 Faces.
Okay, so the Coen brothers, we should just ignore all the movies they've made
I think we
because there's 2 people.
I think so.
Because
the rest of them are
So then we should have
singular.
never talked about them then. There should have been no discussion about the fucking Coen brothers if that's the case. Those movies didn't exist. They're John Calipari in the fucking Final
Yes,
Four.
we're vacating their one.
I honestly think we should just literally take one right down the middle. The right side of Joel's face and the left side of Ethan's
Yeah.
face.
All right.
Mash them together.
And make them a Two-Face.
And it'll look like a Two-Face, but at least Bear will be happy. We won't be setting off any 5 Faces alarms out
right.
there. And
I agree. I like that.
whatever Dakota's
I
is.
think
compliment.
Scorsese deserves to have like hands massaging somebody's shoulders.
I almost made it in, guys.
I think Kurosawa should be there like sipping tea or some shit.
They're on the backside.
Those guys all deserved being around there and everything. And what a tough thing to do to try to come up with 4.
But I can tell you what, if you had asked me this morning before I came down here who I thought we would have picked, I don't think I could have predicted even 50% of those. I think Spielberg and Hitchcock were the only ones I could have predicted.
Yeah.
I think I would have guessed your love of Kubrick would push it. I don't know, but I'm happy with that.
It's
Was really
solid.
fun.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah.
And
All
we
right.
get to do it again next week with a different category.
That's right, baby.
Ah,
All right.
fuckers.
All right. You want to do some questions?
Let's do some questions.
Baby,
I want
let's
the
do
truth.
it.
Question.
I'm listening.
All right. My question is, what are some studios that do a good job allowing their directors to express their art, and what are some studios that are more controlling? Obviously, Marvel is an example of the latter.
This is the shortest question to answer ever.
right.
Right? A24, I think, is the current best example of a studio that has embraced the more auteur indie style director.
Mhm.
I don't even know if they're a studio as much as they're a distribution outfit.
Yeah. A24 definitely is that studio now. I've seen this happen before though, like Miramax and Focus Features and a lot of these that were coming out with great movies suddenly start looking at that bottom line.
Yeah.
And they say, well, we're not really making any money with this. Let's now from all I've heard about A24 is these guys are just made of money and they don't really care whether or not they're huge hits or not, but they are coming out with the best stuff as far as the indie scene is concerned. Now, I would also add Amazon and Netflix on this because they're just allowing they're another 2 outfits made of cash.
Yeah.
And they're just throwing money at people and they're making stuff and they're usually good.
Yeah.
And even stuff like Death Note, which got a lot of flack. When I see someone like you, Barrett, like the movie, I begin to wonder if that movie's actually way better than anybody gives it credit for. Not because you're wrong. I'm wondering if it's just that there's a lot of Death Note fans out there that don't like it.
That's the
and
big
that's
thing.
it.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
the thing. And like if they could have just not called it Death Note or
Right,
whatever,
right.
and would people have been fine with it or whatever?
Yeah, because there's so much humor, and there's just I don't want to get into a Death Note review, but I mean it's a lot better. From what I understand, it's the backlash from the fans of the manga.
Yeah, and I mean it's got it's like instantly 4.7 on IMDb, which I think is
Oh,
just
really?
a complete I haven't seen the movie.
Mhm.
I know it isn't that bad.
Mm-hmm. No,
Like,
no,
yeah.
no, definitely not.
So
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, maybe not Marvel, I would call it Disney. is probably the
Right.
most controlling studio right now, just because in the last 3 years we saw Edgar Wright essentially forced out of Ant-Man.
Yep.
Marvel was owned by Disney at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Lord and Miller basically forced off the Han Solo movie. Disney owns Star Wars.
Which I guess they're reshooting the entirety of.
And then they just basically forced out Colin Trevorrow
Right.
on episode 9.
Right.
So I think they are probably giving the least amount of, especially when you think about or you reflect on some of the things Joss Whedon said after working for, or even Jon Favreau in terms of the freedom shrinking moving forward and not getting bigger.
And they got Abrams to do 9 again.
Yeah,
right?
they have announced J.J. Abrams will do 9. I'm fine with that. I liked Force Awakens, I think maybe more than most people did.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like most about J.J. Abrams is that he is a fan and has respect. The look of Force Awakens is totally
What
on
it
point.
tells to me is that there is something tremendously wrong with who they're picking and what they expect from those people.
Yeah.
They're either getting these people and saying, I want you because you did this great movie or whatever, and then they just assume that there's some bullet points that they have to follow, and they'll just go ahead and do it.
Trevorrow was on this thing. I mean, granted, I don't think they've started shooting, and I think Ant-Man had, Ant-Man hadn't started shooting, I don't think, but Han Solo had, definitely. But Trevorrow's been on this thing for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, how did they not discover until now?
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to kind of know what's going to happen before they go in, right?
Now, I know Trevorrow put out a movie a couple of months ago or this summer that apparently is being considered one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the
maybe
name
that
either.
was the problem. You know,
Well,
I never.
but then the Lord and Miller thing makes no sense.
No, it really doesn't. It's like they brought Lord and Miller in and said, "Now, no hijinks in this movie."
By the way,
But then they were allowed to shoot, 90% of the
I
movie,
know,
or however
that's the
much it
other
was.
problem.
And then, I mean, that's got to be such a loss. I mean, obviously they're going to do well with the movie overall, and they're not
sure
really
it'll make
concerned about
money.
cost. But it's so weird that you get to that point,
Mhm.
and then you're like, no, we're going to pass.
Yeah, and 3 times in 3 years, basically, this has
Yeah.
happened. And it makes me a little concerned. That's why my tweet was, I sense a trend in the force.
Yeah.
Keep doing this.
The Book of Henry was the movie.
Ah, yeah.
By the
yeah.
way, is it Trevorrow or is it Trevorrow?
Well, it's
I don't
Trevorrow
know.
for me until I'm proven otherwise.
I don't know.
I've always said Trevorrow, but
We'll have to look that
I
up.
don't know. I've never heard it pronounced by somebody who absolutely knows. but-
Actually, it's pronounced Wolfshard.
Wolfhard. Wolfhard. So yeah. I don't think there's any like one. There's always a major studio. It seems like every 3 years or so that has that amazing track record where they're doing these like huge hits that people love and people like always like dissect it and like, yeah, this studio is doing this and this and this and that's why they're doing it. Like Universal had that for a while.
Yep.
Warner Brothers, I think, is kind of having that right now with because Annabelle Creation and It were way better than they thought that people thought would be or whatever. And but there's always a major studio that seems to get some sort of recognition, and then they sort of fall off that after a while. I think they get lucky sometimes, and because they're not. There's got to be, I think, a balance there, right? You can't just let a director go wild.
It's got to be the first time directors, basically, right?
Yeah, you can't let them go wild per se, but you kind of give them some freedoms. Don't like start nitpicking all sorts of stuff that they're going to be doing. And
Well, and I will throw out, I think part of the reason is that both Star Wars and Marvel are trying to do these giant shared universes. And so they feel even more protective of each installation because it might upset the balance of this 17 other movies we've already made.
But then don't go out there and get a Joss Whedon or a Lord and Miller who are known for doing a certain thing. I'm not yelling at you, obviously.
I concur.
But, I mean, like, if you've got talent, it's not like if you pick up Andy Muschietti or whatever it is that did it, like, who has a generally short track record. If you've got somebody that has an established thing that's made gobs of money with other things, let them do their thing.
And I've always said it, man. These movies are going to make money no matter what. Why don't you just give these guys a shot at doing what they want to do? Now, again, I think the main problem for Disney and Marvel is that they're not interviewing right. There's just something wrong where they're like, these guys are great. Go and do what you got to do. And then,
Okay.
yeah. And then halfway through it, they're like, wait a minute, this is not what we signed up for. Well, yeah, it was, but okay. So yeah, That's an interesting thing. That is definitely the most controlling company. Of course, they have so many properties.
Yeah, they own everything.
I get the sense that they feel like if they lose one little grip on it, they'll.
I could even make an argument Jason Segel walked away from the Muppets for probably the same kind of reasons as these things.
Could be.
It could be. My son has this video game, Disney Infinity, where it's got like all of the Disney properties that you can play as characters in this, and it is freakishly insane how many different properties are within this thing. You got like Anakin Skywalker fighting, Ant-Man or something like that. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
That's they own it all. Half of all the everything, they own it.
Exactly.
Hit me.
All right, next question. In a previous pod, you mentioned how Jack Black was in his best role when he did School of Rock, and Jim Carrey was in his best role in Liar Liar. My question to you guys is, what are some of your favorite actors' best role? And the bonus question, if we want to, is there an actor that you don't think has been cast in their perfect role yet?
Wow.
So a lot of the actors that you can come up with, they sometimes have these. That they have a certain way about them in every movie that they're in. So there's really no variance. Like you think about a John Cusack or somebody like that. Really doesn't. I don't think there's anything that Cusack's ever done that really like says, "Oh, he just did something really different."
Yeah.
Gene Hackman is a guy that I think almost everybody loves. Hackman has pretty much the same kind of role though, and even it doesn't matter what movie it is, he's pretty much the same, but he's always good. But in The Conversation, that is his one real big different movie. Royal Tannenbaums too, but The Conversation especially because he's so introverted and he's not always yelling at people and stuff like that. It's
because you made a phone call.
Because you made a phone call. It's. I think it's his best performance.
Yeah.
There's so many. I mean, I think he's got away with doing a lot of the shouty villain type roles. This one is so much different from what he's ever done, and it's my favorite of his.
I agree.
One of my favorite actors, and definitely my favorite role he's ever done.
It's a good call.
I have two that are like singular in careers. One is Val Kilmer, our friend of the show, Val Kilmer.
Right.
Because we were.
Is this the first time we've mentioned Val Kilmer?
Possibly.
Yeah.
But as Doc Holliday in Tombstone. I think that performance came out of nowhere, I think.
I agree.
And it's great. I mean, you go back and you watch it and you're like, that is a character that I want to know more about. But to me, it begins and ends with Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody had embodied the Joker like he had,
it's
even
so
though
sad that
Jack
we
Nicholson tried.
Won't ever get to see if he was still on his way up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might not have been all he had.
Between
Brokeback Mountain and that, he might have still had some spectacular performances in him that we'll never get to see.
Well, he was 29, 28. How old was he when he died?
I don't know, but when you do that, it causes him to look stuff up.
Oh, yes, sir.
No, I think that's about right. He was about 28 or
So I mean, he definitely had some more performances like that in him. Maybe not to the level of the Joker. But I've got another Batman tangential character actor that I don't think has been cast in his perfect role yet, and I think it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now he's
Snowden wasn't it?
Right, exactly. Did you see that, by the way?
I saw that. I saw The Walk. I watched most of JGL's work.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's great. He's great in Looper. He's great in Brick. He's great. Like all these things, like he's terrific in. But I don't think he's been cast as like a particular like defining role. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree.
Unless
That's actually a really good
Robin.
call.
Yeah.
No, I think Jesse Eisenberg, his best role is going to end up being The Social Network.
Yep.
Ironically, I think that movie reins him in a little bit more than even like Batman v Superman in terms of like, the hyper fast talking and the kind of awkward nerd delivery or what have you. It helps that it fits, at least the public persona of Zuckerberg as we know it, and that everything else in the movie around him is so great. But before that, he was likable. After that, I think he's likable, but nothing is going to come close to that.
I was just thinking, is it possible that Eisenberg's performance in Social Network, we like that one, and we don't like the one in Batman v Superman, which is almost the same thing, because in the Social Network, people are fighting back. In Batman v Superman, everybody's sort of taking it, or they think they've got one over on him, and he comes up with something else or whatever. there seems to be some pushback. Like if someone were to talk to me in this manner in the Social Network, they're all like, you better lawyer up, asshole, and stuff like that is going on.
Yeah.
Whereas in Batman v Superman, everybody's just like, the guy's like, yeah, I'll give you everything, and all this other, it's just
he's so showy in that role though.
Mhm.
Like he's so hammy, even though it's got the kind of staccato delivery and everything.
Mhm.
He's also like got those hitches in his delivery and Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
And in the Social Network, I don't think the only time he really cracks a smile, I think, is after he's gotten the blowjob in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And other than that, like he's emotionless. He's a blank slate, and I guess maybe that's how Zuckerberg is. But.
And I think for the other answer, I'll go Andrew Garfield, because he's in Social Network, almost steals that movie. Thought he was great in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I saw Hacksaw Ridge recently. He's good in that. That movie, that's like 2 different movies. Have you guys seen that?
Yep.
I was not expecting like 55 minutes of build-up. I was before we actually get to war.
Right.
Anyway, and he's in that latest Scorsese movie, Silence. So he's working with all these great people being in these good movies, but I don't think we've yet seen the perfect fit role for Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
The on the other side of that question, where it's asking what actors have we seen at their best, I think Tom Hanks we've seen at his best. Tom Hanks is another guy, always generally the good guy. He's the comedy guy, whatever. But Philadelphia is going to be the best we've ever seen Tom Hanks.
Yep.
There's never going to be anything better.
I think you're probably
right. And long time, Hanks was probably my favorite actor for a while there.
He couldn't miss.
No, he couldn't. But Philadelphia, that is something where he was aiming for more than I've seen him ever. Almost everything else, he's still. I mean, even Forrest Gump is still very Tom Hanks, even though he's just putting on another accent. So yeah.
Last one. Name a movie in which after a character was killed off, the movie wasn't worth watching further.
Oh, my answer is The Departed. Everything after that elevator scene pisses me off.
How much time is left in the movie though after that?
I don't know, 6 minutes
It's
maybe.
it's not very long.
It's
after
not
that.
a lot, but that you
it's a coda that doesn't need to be there though, because you follow Damon like going through about his business and all that
There are
stuff.
ways to show me that Dignam's going to catch up to him and I don't need to worry about it throughout the movie without. And maybe it's just that goddamn rat.
Yeah.
That in your face that somebody like Scorsese should be so better than that.
I have a question about the end of The Departed too. Like when we're following all the events that happen in The Departed, we know that Matt Damon's not a great guy. But when he walks into his apartment complex, you have 2 people who don't know anything about that, unless they've just been told, I don't know, who are rude to him when he gets off the elevator. Like for no reason.
That's true.
Like I've never understood that.
They know that he's
I've
a
just
rat.
assumed he's probably been rude to them in the past.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
But I don't know why he's all of a sudden nice.
Also, one of my favorite new subreddits is, what's it called? I forget what it's called, but it's essentially noticing super tiny details in movies. And they don't want like trivia or stuff that's known. They want you to find stuff. And somebody, maybe you guys already know this, but apparently there are X's in the background in The Departed anytime a character who later dies in the film is on screen. And there's like several screenshots showing this. Like there's a red X behind Leo in the elevator going down.
Oh.
And there's X's all over the carpet and the walls of that apartment complex when Matt Damon's walking in at the end.
Huh.
By the way, that's kind of like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. They have a bunch of X's that happen in that movie. Now that's known, but that's another little interesting detail. So I have Bryan Cranston in Godzilla.
Oh yeah.
It's I mean, I guess in a way you could say like, oh, it's kind of interesting they kill off one of the most known actors, and and it pretty much says anything can happen and all that. But Cranston is built up as our hero all the way up into the point that he dies.
Yeah.
And then, suddenly it's Aaron Taylor Johnson. I don't have a problem with him. It's really the character of being the guy that's going to lead, this movie afterwards. I feel like that movie would have been so much better if Cranston gets to be the guy that pulls everybody through it and everything. And then they kill him off, and it's like, man, the rest of the movie for me, except for when Godzilla is like breathing that, that fire or whatever into the the whatevers. But that's where the movie stops becoming as good.
That's a pretty good call.
I have a shitty movie that gets shittier after this character dies.
All right.
Deep Blue Sea.
Oh, the Sam Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's the most interesting character.
Although, I will tell you, that moment is the only reason anybody ever likes that movie.
Exactly. And everything after that is just totally
and
forgettable.
Everything leading up to it is totally forgettable. Like, it's not good. It's just that I would argue it has to be there. Otherwise, this movie was off the face of the map 2 months after it came out.
Yeah.
But because it was so surprising, shocking, and the biggest star in the whole movie, people have convinced themselves that equals good.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Yep.
Those are genetically enhanced sharks under there. Just think about what you're watching, people.
That's right. Now you're going to get a healthy dose of LL Cool J after that.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a little mini It?
We could do some mini.
Let's do a mini It.
Oh,
Although, for the listener, Jeremy has not seen it yet, so I will mostly play question-asking background guy.
All right. What did you think of it, Chris?
I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I enjoyed it. I think this is one of those weird movies where it's R-rated, but I feel like if you're 13 or 14 and your mom allows you to watch, anything that's like on the edge there, you should. That's for them. It's for 13 and 14-year-old kids a lot. I mean,
it's for the 9-year-old that came up to us.
Yeah.
Said that he loves our videos.
I love how the movie doesn't pull punches with, like the kids talking, like saying fuck every word and they're acting like kids that I remember when I was 13 and 14. Like that's the type of stuff. Their lame jokes are awesome jokes for the movie, that one, I don't know if this is, I guess we won't say anything spoilery, but I enjoyed it. I read the book a long time ago. I was about these kids' ages when I read the book. It took me forever. I got through the first half, and then I think it sat there on a dresser or something for like ever. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to finish this up.
Is it bifurcated in the book? It's been forever since I read it. Does it
split
have like
up.
the Losers Club and then the whatever it is?
Yeah, I believe it's split up where it's where you have the kids and then they're adults.
Did you just say bifurcated?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did that in the miniseries as well. They split that up.
If you saw that subreddit post about the SinCast drinking game, I think I sent that to you. One of them is every time Barrett pulls out a vocab word.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So you just got him again.
Oh, was it a vocab word? I heard somebody say, like, I say some obscure word.
I don't know. It was something along those lines. Bifurcated's going to get him, is all
Nice.
I'm saying. Somebody's drinking out there.
Of course, we have one of the kids from Stranger Things is in this, so he might be relegated. He's excellent.
Finn Woodhead, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got the greatest cursing in like tween history. Like every time there'll be like a reaction shot where everybody just stops. And because there's a lot of those, he'll throw in like a Jesus fuck.
Yeah.
It's just fucking great.
His name's Finn Wolfhard. You were
Finn
close.
Wolfhard, yeah.
Yeah. He's like making a name for himself doing these 80s retro
His name is
type of
Wolfhard?
Wolfhard.
That is a badass name.
Wolfhard.
It's like a Game of Thrones name.
Hard.
Lord Wolfhard.
But yeah, he's great. He's probably the best part of the movie, I think, of all the kid actors who are in this.
There's a part where the guy says, "This town used to be a beaver trap," and he's like, "Still is, isn't it? Am I right?"
That was the line I was going to say. I didn't know if it was a spoiler or not. But yeah, I was trying to watch this movie if I didn't have the book. I haven't read the book in 20-something years.
Right.
It's not like I know every single last detail of it or anything, and it wouldn't have mattered one way or the other. But this movie, even though it has a lot of your typical jump scares in it, which I think is the negative out of all this, and I think it's because of the original material. Mm-hmm. It's so different from any other horror movie that you've ever seen.
Yep,
it's so completely different. Just the way it goes about everything. There are a lot of times where you're just like, come on already. What are you doing, Pennywise? What is your goal in all of these different times where you show up and then don't do anything?
Yep.
You're just there to scare them.
Actually, no, I've got a theory on that because without getting into spoilers, I think he doesn't attack at times because he's trying to build up that fear.
Okay, I have another theory,
and
you might be right. It might go hand in hand. And I guess let's end the spoiler talk and say that we liked it. We both liked the movie. So I guess this is a mini-pod here.
What, we're going into spoilers?
Yeah, we're going to go into spoilers so we can talk
Are you
about
good with
this.
that?
I don't give a shit.
Okay, good.
No spoilers!
Kevin Spacey is Kaiser Soze.
Luke's father is actually Darth Vader. She's the sister and the daughter. They just
No. I'm reading the books.
I have a theory also about this that maybe possibly, now I don't think this holds on every scene, but that he doesn't kill when there are witnesses because he doesn't want there to be anybody who can actually verify that he exists. Because the whole thing about the in the book and in the movie they mention this too is that the adults can't seem to see him.
No,
they don't see anything. They don't see even the
all the blood in the bathroom.
Don't see
and
all the blood.
Stuff.
That's I think that's straight from the book. So they don't see it, and it's one of those things where the adults don't see it. So you also start getting into the philosophical areas of it, where it's like the adults are blind to all the problems that are happening in the town and all that. I really like that sort of that idea that and everybody in this movie has a fucked up parent.
Yep.
Every single one of them has.
Sounds like South Park.
Yeah.
They're all the only negative stuff I've seen about this movie seems to be people that have a lot of baggage ties to the original book. Like I even went on like the R Movies discussion, and like the 5 or 6 most top voted comments were all kind of meh or negative on it, but every single one of them was so specific about why. I was like Mikey and Julie's relationship didn't play as well as it did in the book, or blah blah blah, or what have you. And that nasally voice makes it sound like I'm poo-pooing people who love that book. That's not what I mean. But I've never read the book, and I only saw the miniseries once a long-ass time ago. So I'm actually kind of excited to see this. It's getting good reviews, and I don't have any baggage to kind of like, however different it is, it's not going to throw me off.
No, I did the same thing. I actually read it at some point in my early 20s or something like that. Saw the miniseries at some point. But distanced myself intentionally from that, like bringing those memories up so I could see it as fresh as possible. And I think it was better because of that. And I think it's such a Stephen King story. You're focusing. What the movie does well is it focuses on the developing these kids like actual characters instead of just throwing them in and showing the clown all the time. And then you've got like the real world villain versus the ethereal villain, and it just plays so perfectly in that thing, and that's why he's such a successful writer, is he can do this really, really well.
Good God, this is a huge impact when I was with my buddies back in the 90s when that miniseries came out and everything. We used to always go around. Anytime float came up, we would be like, they all float. We'd always, like clockwork. Anytime somebody mentioned the word float, we would say they all float. But it's interesting. I think it's really well shot, and of course the effects are really good. I think the effects of Pennywise are terrifying, man. All the teeth and gums and everything when he's about to eat somebody. Holy shit, man! That it's like the entire inside of his mouth comes out of his lips. Yeah. And just wraps around these things. It's scary as fuck, man.
I love Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah,
Bill Skarsgård's character, and the way that he does it, because I do remember Tim Curry's Pennywise and loving that and everything. But he's got such a very specific delivery.
Yeah.
He sounds like a clown. And then I actually saw a video of him doing the smile without makeup, and it's almost as terrifying. Because he wraps his lips around and he does this weird thing with his cheeks and everything. It's a really, really great performance, I think.
And the people who have ties to the book, this always happens, by the way. There's always scenes that they cut from the book. They cut a scene that I'm glad they took out in it where she, the girl ends up having sex with all the boys after the first battle or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, there's no way they're even hinting at this. Maybe there's a possibility, I guess, when they come out with this chapter 2 or whatever of this or whatever, that they'll refer back to it, but it'll be adults talking.
Yeah, but I don't, because I
they didn't show it, but maybe it's supposed to have happened off screen or something. If they want to make book people happy with every single little detail.
Yeah,
whatever.
I think the point. I think the way that she brought them together was not by that, but by being captured.
Yeah.
And then that's where he goes into the arcade and gets them out.
Yeah.
So she does bring them together, just not in a really skeezy,
Really weird, fucked up way.
I saw a quote from Stephen King about that scene. The end of it was basically like, people didn't get so sensitive about stuff like that back when I wrote it.
Yeah,
well, he's
that's true. It was the 80s.
Speaking of the girl, she's fantastic.
Oh, she's absolutely great.
Man, I did not expect the level of performances. I mean, I guess it plays Bill, the stuttering kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Finn Wolfhard and Sophia Lillis plays the girl is terrific.
Yeah, I don't want to call out because these are kids actors.
Mm-hmm.
There's one performance in this movie that got on my nerves a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, and I don't blame the kid for
Mm-hmm.
that. I think it's just that I think the director probably like just keep doing what you're doing and everything. And there were moments where I was just like, man, dude, it just can we do something about this? But yeah, overall a good time. I think people are in rush to judgment as far as it being like great, but it's good. It's one of the better horror movies that you'll see. It's
On track to be the highest grossing horror movie of all time.
It broke 3 records. It broke not only September, but it broke fall opening ever.
Really?
Fall
That's
opening.
crazy. Harry Potter used to
123
open in the fall.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Huh.
It broke fall opening, and it easily broke horror movie record. And it almost beat R-rated, but Deadpool had 135 million. It wasn't far off of Deadpool.
But yeah, this is a movie I'd watch probably several times again.
Yeah.
I told Chris as soon as we came out, I think it's probably about 10, 15 minutes too long. And that's just like editing within the scene, like the chases kind of go on for a while and stuff like that.
And there's a whole like thing that's a big climax, it feels like, and then it's sort of like that. I don't want to compare a movie like this to a romantic comedy, but romantic comedy has that moment where the two leads break up.
Yeah.
And there's, that whole like period of time where the guy's like, I wonder how I'll be able to get her back. Oh, I know. I'll show her how much I love kids. And it's like that. They have a kind of a breakup there, and then they have to get the gang back together because, hey man, our Bev's been kidnapped and
we've got it.
We got to save her, even though every single one of the people that has ever been dragged down to the sewer by it is dead. Usually, she's fine. She's alive.
Yep.
She's kind of like Newt in Aliens, where Ripley goes all the way back.
She's only mostly dead.
Yeah, exactly, mostly.
They come out at night mostly.
Yes. Anyway, I would recommend it. I think I would watch it again. So
A-, B+.
I'll put it at B+ for now.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah. All right, guys. That'll be it for this week. Just keep on going to stuff like SoundCloud, our email address.
And we have a fun announcement. We are opening a Facebook community page.
Nice.
So you can go to SinCast Cinemasins on Facebook. We'll have the episode posted there. We'll have a nice discussion. It's more integrated. Everybody's on Facebook now. So go there. Feel free to go to the other places too. Send us an email if you want to, but that's going to be kind of our primary nesting spot for a while.
Nice. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
There's like a clown renaissance happening because I actually watched the first episode of American Horror Story. The new one. It's about clowns and the election.
Oh yeah, I've never watched any of that show.
I every once in a while I find it entertaining. Like the beginning of the Roanoke House last season was good. It had Cuba Gooding Jr. and Sarah Paulson's in all of them, and that was good. But like this one was just weird. Like Evan Peters is doing like a Johnny Depp, Heath Ledger type of thing, which I think he can pull off. But it's exactly like they would act. But it's about clowns. Like she's freaked out about clowns, and there's creepy looking clowns But like, it's just weird that comes out right after it is out.
Yeah.
It out.
He took
it out. Anyway, I don't know if it's worth watching.
You know, they probably did it because of that. They knew it. I mean, the all that stuff.
Pennywise was out when we talked to Aaron Sims.
Yeah, and that was last year.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think they probably had that all set up.
It's such a meta thing. Like, it's all these, like, neoliberals that are, like, sitting around an election night, like, you know, becoming increasingly horrified and everything. Sarah Paulson's character is just nails on a chalkboard, man. She is married to Allison Pill in this show.
Oh, yeah?
And Allison Pill is cute as a button.
I love me some Allison Pill.
What happens if the engine stops?
I do love that part, and just bringing up Allison Pill in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, where Jason Schwartzman refers to her as the smoking hot drum player, and she looks at him like, "What?" She was on the Aaron Sorkin HBO.
Yeah, the Newsroom.
Oh,
she was
yeah.
on Newsroom.
Yeah, I wish I had gotten into that show more. You said you watched all the episodes.
I did too.
Yeah, it was 3 seasons.
When it was on its 3rd season, I started kind of like binging to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's like every Sorkin series except West Wing. You know, they're all really engaging, and they're just not quite as good as West Wing.
Yeah,
like that Studio 60 I watched while it was on.
I hated that.
See, I found it compelling, but that's probably just because I really like Matthew Perry and the other dude whose name's escaping me, Bradley Whitford.
Yeah, I think the problem with Studio 60 is they made a big deal in the first episode of this sketch they're doing called Crazy Christians.
Right.
And then so you actually see the sketch and you're like, this is what you were upset about? There's way worse stuff out there and everything. Yeah. And so then it became hard to take them seriously as a sketch show, a working sketch show.
Yeah.
Sort of like 30 Rock was at the same time.
Yeah,
it came out the same time.
Yeah.
And they were doing that. They were having problems because they were showing actual sketches on The Girly Show, which is something that would, never would be a show. Because you would never call a sketch show, and they would show these sketches, and you're like, I'm having a hard time believing that this is a working outfit of writers and actors when you show that type of thing.
Yeah, and you would think Sorkin would be able to. I remember thinking that about Studio 60, that whenever they did show sketches, they weren't all that funny, and the show's trying to get a lot of its drama from the urgency of doing a weekly live show where they have all these sketches on the board and have to argue about them and fight for them, and then which ones will they choose, and it's right before the show. But you lose all of the tension when ultimately the skits that you do show me, I'm like, why did anybody fight for any of these?
Yeah. In a show like that, you have to just leave it alone or become a sketch show.
Yeah, have some funny shit
within the show. And have writers write actual sketches, but man, I think that's what was its undoing. That very first episode was, I felt it was good too for a while until that point got to.
Sorkin did Sports Night, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good.
That was good shit too.
I like that.
It was kind of before he peaked and hit that West Wing stride, at least as a television writer.
I think that show was like 80% walk and talks. Well, of course, so was West Wing.
All of them are. I mean, even the Newsroom was all walk and talks. He excels at that shit.
I think Newsroom failed for virtually the same reasons as Studio 60 did. The first season was great because it had an idealistic look at news that's impossible with the corporations and everything owning all these media conglomerates and everything. So it was fun to see them do news that wasn't normal, like news like normal. But then once they started introducing characters who were like, we gotta ramp up your Twitter following, and and like corporations were coming in trying. Obviously, that's what would happen, but they just needed to have somebody who was, they needed to have John Hurt from Contact who doesn't care. Like, you give them a whole bunch of money just to do what do what they want, and let them do the news as is instead of this whole like, oh no, corporations are coming in, just like what it would happen in real life. No, we don't want to see that.
Yeah. We don't want to see real life, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
Sipping on coke and rum. I'm like, so what? I'm drunk. It's the freaking weekend, baby. I'm about to have me some fun. Bounce, 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 bounce.
I had the biggest scare with my cats I've ever had.
Oh no!
After coming back from It the other day.
Oh no!
Tying this in from the movie that we watched.
Uh-huh.
Usually have no problem coming home. The cats are all sitting there waiting for me when I get back. They hear the door open. They're all like sitting there like waiting. Just feed me. But there was only one cat downstairs when I got home. And he was like looking over his shoulder and like looking up the stairs and like all like spooked. I don't know what it was. So nobody was coming down. There wasn't like any, I would have figured after, and I started preparing my own food and I was like, surely this will bring everybody down. Nobody was coming down.
Huh.
And so while I'm cooking, I went upstairs and I saw the second cat. He was on my bed just like lying around. I was like, okay, so no big deal. But the other cat, the big one, could not find him anywhere. I looked under the bed. I looked in closets. I looked behind doors. I looked all sorts of places. Couldn't find him. And I started to really worry. I was like, is it possible that he was out in the garage and I just didn't know, and I opened up the garage and he ran out, or did he somehow manage to get inside my car and I turned it on or something like that? One of those type of things. And I could not find him anywhere. Finally, I was like, all right, I'm going to look in some real stupid places. Yeah. And he was in my office behind the TV and the TV stand.
Oh, wow.
And I looked down at him. I was like, hey, buddy, what's up? And he was just looking at me like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Now, I did notice that the trash can inside the office had been knocked over. So it could have been something where they were all playing around with that trash can and it fell down. And then they had that, probably had a big mad scatter after it fell down. Because they've done that in the middle of the night before. I had one time I had a little paper shredder on the top of that trash can, and at like 4:00 in the morning, I heard this just like these 3 cats galloping away from somewhere, and I heard just this.
Oh shit! They turned it on.
Yeah. They turned it on because I think because it fell off the trash can and the button just switched.
That's so
and I got up, I saw the cats just mad dash everywhere. And then I went into the office and I was like, I got the trash back up. And then, at 4:00 in the morning, you're like, what's that noise? I don't even know what that noise is. Oh, it's paper shredder. Oh, okay. And then like when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh shit, I was a paper shredder and everything.
Glad they didn't get their tail stuck.
Yeah, no kidding. That's right.
Just clap your hands.
That whole look for the cat that you're starting to get worried about thing happens about once every few months in my house.
Oh, yeah?
Because, we're hermits. We don't ever have people over. We don't want to have people over. So the cats are only used to a couple different people that have been over before frequently enough. And everybody else, they just hide. And sometimes it's not a place they've ever hidden before because they felt cornered in a room and went into this place. This happened just like 5 days ago. We spent about 30 minutes looking for our Davis, and we finally found him. And he was like in the towel cupboard under the sink in the spare bathroom, hiding behind a stack of towels.
Wow.
And he'd never been.
And believe me, I was looking in there.
Yeah.
I was looking because one of the cats has learned how to open up those doors.
Fucking things.
And so I was thinking maybe there was a chance that the door opened and then it got closed back on one of the other cats and they couldn't get out. So I was opening up cabinets and all this other stuff. But yeah, he was behind the TV. And I think, once they get into that situation where something that fight or flight instinct comes in and it's something like traumatic, like trash falling on them or something like that. I think they get into these like just 2-hour dazes where they're like, I'm staying where I'm at. I'm fine here. But they were all acting funny. Like there's just, even the one who doesn't really get scared, the middle cat, I always call him. He was kind of like looking. He wasn't really himself. He was just kind of like looking around. Like,
yeah, they fucked some shit up, man.
Yeah, they did. They really did.
Either that, or a killer clown was in your house right before you got home.
Well, I mean, when you watch the movie, man, you really open that up into your life, right?
I bet.